In an S-rank dungeon, after taking the magic staff, our protagonist accidentally awakens a legion of undead, and an SS-Rank Lich King. The hero shouts, "Light-kun, pass me the staff. With it, I can defeat the Lich." So, the protagonist throws it to him. The hero catches it, and his panic shifts to relief. Even the protagonist's childhood crush, Saya, starts blushing. But when Light-kun urges them to hurry, they both give him disgusted looks. Laughing maniacally, the hero boasts, "You were deceived so easily, Light-kun." Even Saya coldly adds, "What a fool." Turns out, they plan to abandon him, leaving him behind to face the undead horde alone. But he refuses to give up, casting holy light to fend off the skeletons. The hero party, their faces twisted with wicked glee, waves goodbye as he desperately yells, "Wait." After a long, exhausting struggle, sweating and barely holding off the undead, he realizes the truth. Hero Agunil, his crush Saya, and even Father Kuts had planned to betray him from the start. Battered and low on HP, he swears vengeance against these three traitors. Just as all seems lost, the system flashes an alert. Light magic level error. Once again, it's him versus an army of SS rank undead. In his final moments, the system announces, upper limit for light attribute, unlocked. Shocked, he watches as his light magic evolves, transforming into something greater, plasma attribute. A glimmer of hope ignites within him. And with that, our story begins. In this world, there are two types of people: those who fight using weapons like swords, bows, and spears, the warrior types, and those who wield magic and produce fire or water or sometimes even heal wounds, the mage types. There's also a category called attributes, but it's all according to the will of the gods. 7 years ago, on the day of the attribute test, Saya got the fire attribute. Standing in front of a cathedral, Light says that fire is strong. Saya comments that she thought the wind would be cooler, though, but says thanks for the light. She then asks what the light attribute is and if it's like hers. Light admits that he doesn't really know it himself. Pointing at Light, Saya says that Light has super high magic power and is super powerful. Saya adds that Light is the star of the orphanage, saying that they should go on adventures together. The priest asks the kids who finished their test to go home. Looking back, Saya says that she'll go ahead and wishes Light good luck. He waves her hand looking at her as well. Nationwide attribute test, where kids who turn 10 will undergo a test where priests convey the will of the gods through it. The mage types fall into the four main attributes: fire, earth, water, and wind, and sometimes rare attributes. Saya stands surrounded by flames and says that she can't wait to see what attribute she'll get. Light calls out to Saya and says that they should go on together. The priest announces to come in next. Gesturing toward Light, the priest in a white robe says to come closer. Holding a glowing orb, the priest in a white robe announces that Light's attribute is light. Light reacts with a confused huh and asks what light is. Light asks if they are sure, as this is really the attribute given to them by the gods. Confirming it, the priest tells him that gods don't make mistakes. Light exclaims that it isn't a strong attribute. The priest in a white robe stares at him, questioning him if he is dissatisfied with the attribute given to him by gods. Crying, Light says that he wants to be an adventurer. Explaining the situation, the priest in a white robe says that light magic has no attack power and it would be hard to become an adventurer. Even so, they are a special light attribute user, 1 in 1,000. The priest in a white robe tells Light to accept their fate. Looking distressed, Light feels dissatisfied with his attribute. The priest calls for the next person to come in. Light asks what the point of their high magical power is. He admits that he wasn't asking for too much and that any of the 4 major attributes would have been fine. Saya encourages Light to go on adventures together. Light calls out to Saya, and now 7 years later, events unfold. A woman with brown hair says that Light is back and welcomes him. Waving to the woman with brown hair, Light says that he is back. Melisa responds that she heard Light completed a quest with the guild. Light confirms that it was a goblin extermination in the cave, and adds that it was the usual task, with Light as the torch holder. Melisa tells him that the party leader was really impressed, and he said that he was thoughtful and it's easier for them to fight with him holding the torch. Light feels happy hearing it. Then he asks if there are any recruitment offers coming up, but there are none. After being diagnosed with the light attribute, Light became the go-to person for odd jobs at the orphanage. Light asks Melisa for lunch as he thinks that carrying luggage and cooking aren't a bother now. Reflecting on their situation, Light thinks that with his high magical power, he can use a skill called magic transfer, but people call him a magic tank, which is pretty useful. Reflecting on the past, he notes that ever since the attribute inspection day, everyone at the orphanage, even Saya, became distant. Light wonders what everyone is doing now. He asks if there's a need for an adventurer like them. Light's parties are always temporary and low-paying, but there are also quests they can do alone, like gathering moonlight grass, saying that he is happy enough with this. Sitting at a table, Light eats a meal. A voice from outside the window says that's Light. Beginning a new quest, Light Light is on a mission for Moonlight Grass Gathering. Light says that they should get started casting a spell. He says that they are bright and ready for it. Moonlight Grass is a medicinal herb traded at high prices at the guild, and it can only be found at night. Light exclaims that he found it. Considering the effort and lighting costs, it's not worth much for regular adventurers. Light reflects that with light magic, it's an easy grab and zero expenses too. He concludes that it's like this quest was made just for him. Gathering moonlight grass, Light says that he should be done, adding that it's a big haul. Light exclaims that his level increased, and the new magic is with attack power 0. He observes that the magic cap on magic level is 10, and notes that the new magic is at level 9. Light wonders people call light magic useless attribute, and to level up is something only he has done in this world. He held on a sliver of hope, thinking that maybe a high-level spell might have some attack power if he raised his magic level. Light reflects that if he raises his magic level, his magic power also increases. Light concludes that even though he is at the bottom, he is still managing to be an adventurer. Recalling a past moment, the priest in a white robe tells Light to accept their fate. Light declares that he will screw that and forge his own path as an adventurer. Walking through the town, Light greets Melisa-san and says good morning. Melisa exclaims that Light is back, and adds that there's big news. Light reacts with a surprised ha, and asks what it is. Getting closer, Melisa explains that it's a special request, revealing that it's from the A-rank party, Zul Silver Will. Shouting in surprise, Light exclaims what? He asks if a request from an A-rank party will really come for them. Melisa responds that yes. Explaining the rarity, she says that A-rank parties are incredibly rare, and only a handful of elite make it to A-rank. Wondering aloud, Light questions if Silver Will really wants him. He admits that he is only at D rank, just recently promoted. Melisa clarifies that Silver Will sent the request after noticing Light's recent promotion. Realizing the intent, she adds that they are looking for someone with high magic power, and concludes that Silver Will can use him as a mana tank after all. Silver Will supposedly has a Grand Mage as one of its members, so they will need someone with high magic power like Light can offer. Melisa says that Light is the only one bringing recognition. Reflecting on his abilities, Light admits that he has some confidence in his magic and high magic power, and asks if they really think so. She confirms that yes, they do. He wonders if he can really keep up with an A-rank party. Melisa explains that he has one of the highest survival rates and quest completion rates, and the request is based on the reputation. Light acknowledges that it's an A-rank request, and notes that it'll definitely involve high-level dungeons. Light adds that he is not a beginner anymore, and jumping at an offer without knowing it is too dangerous. A lady begins to enter the scene. Light tells Melisa that he is canceling this request. He trunks around hearing someone questioning his canceling. The lady exclaims that they should go together, and hugs him. Light questions about her identity. She looks at him feeling like he is not able to recognize her, and asks if he forgot about her and he is so terrible. Light is confused with the lady's remarks, and he tells Melisa that it's not like what she thinks. Speaking to her, Light says hey and asks who she is. Saya giggles and says that Light hasn't changed at all. Laughing, Saya says that it's her. He begins to recall some memories from the past, and exclaims Saya's name, and she says that he's correct. The last time they saw each other was during the attribute assessment. After that they grew distant, and Saya left the orphanage after that, and it's been 5 years since then. Saya expresses that they can finally meet again. Light, responding softly, Light says that it's been a while but asks why she is here. Someone explains that they are the clients. They look toward the man. Greeting Light, a blonde character says that it's nice to meet him. The blonde character introduces himself as the leader of Silver Will, and his name is Agunil, and gives a gentle smile. Light reacts with a surprised ha. Agunil holds a critical position and title above the highest ranking archmage. He holds the highest ranking title among the sages, the great sage Agunil. Shouting in awe, Light calls out to Sir Agunil. Agunil laughs and says that just Agunil is fine since it's not a big deal. Light panics and says no way. Recalling the past, Light says that he was inspired by someone with the failure attribute. Agunil was originally the super rare null attribute. The null attribute can use fire, earth, wind, and water magic freely as a trade-off, but the increase in magic level is incredibly slow. Even if the level rises, the amount of magic power gained is very little. Even with the efforts of a lifetime, they cannot compare to a regular magician. Explaining further, someone with the null attribute like Agunil, it's considered a failure attribute, but Agunil didn't give up. He entered the magic tower using their financial power as support, and through research upon research, Agunil developed a method to instantly recover magic power. Agunil was able to max out the null attribute. He is said to be the world's one and only all attribute user. Reflecting on Agunil's journey, when Light was on the verge of breaking, Agunil's spirit and amazing story met, and hearing Agunil's story was what helped him. Light realizes that it's someone like that in front of him. Feeling embarrassed, Light says that he can't call Agunil that. Agunil suggests that to at least stop with the Sama. Questioning the situation, he asks if he will accept the request. past. Light asks what he means. Saya exclaims that it's about recruitment. Adding more, he asks to wait a minute before questioning if Saya is also in that party. Confirming, Saya states that it's an A-rank party. Saya shows an A-rank recognition badge from the valley. Shocking Light. Expressing gratitude, Saya says that it's thanks to Agunil. Agunil clarifies that it's thanks to Saya's strength. They begins to act like a couple, while Light just keeps watching them with a sad look on his face. He exclaims Saya has grown and already moved into a different world than him. Recalling the past, he says that he can't help it. He admits that he wanted to be by Saya's side, but that what shattered love is like. The priest comes up to him and tells him that he just witnessed the shattered love, and tells how pitiful. Light gets startled hearing that and tells why the priest is even here. The priest adds that he is also a member of Silver Will. Saya confirms that it's right, and adds she quit the orphanage and returned to being an adventurer. Agunil also adds he quit the orphanage and returned to being an adventurer. Recalling past when the priest called him useless failure attribute, he feels strange. Suddenly after all this time, those two who had been distant and the great sage came to him. The priest asks if Light would help him and he needs his strength. Light reflects that a warning is ringing deep within his heart. Feeling he should refuse the offer, the priest pleads that they really need Light's strength. Speaking softly, Saya asks if he remembers their promise back then. Saya looks at him gently, reflecting on the past. Light recalls that he'll become an adventurer, and they should go on adventures together. Light acknowledges that he does remember and says let's go together. Entering a dark place, it's the Lich King's resting place. Light exclaims that he knew this was a dangerous place and he shouldn't have come. Agunil says that it's alright and they should go. Light screams that the difficulty of the Necromance King's resting place is off the charts. The priest tells that he deciphered some texts and learned about the existence of a certain artifact. Agunil confirms that it's an ancient wisdom that can convert magic power in the air, and it should return it to the user, further explaining that in other words, with that, you have unlimited magic power, there's no fear of running out of mana. Light concludes that he sees, and notes the artifact Agunil is carrying is a huge magic tank. Reflecting on the artifact, he explains that even though the Lich King became an attribute user, his original magic power isn't that high, and thinks that an artifact like that will ever be needed by him. But for Agunil, the employer, it's something he desperately wants. Facing a monstrous figure, Light screams in fear. Casting a spell, Agunil asks if Light is alright and tells him not to stray too far from the formation. Light confirms with yes. This party doesn't have any warrior-type frontliners. Agunil and Saya are the frontliners while the priest is in the rear, and Light will stay in the center and light the way. Normally this would be a distorted party. Casting a spell, Saya says that they'll burn it all. Agunil casts a spell Thunderbolt. Saya follows with a spell labeled Elder Fire. Light watches in awe, noting that this is an A-rank party. He watches them fighting with ease against the monsters. The priest says they are the strongest combat force. They could hire the warrior instead of him and get the high-end magic tool for Light, and questions if this is what you're thinking. Light gets startled and looks back, and responds with a surprised ha, and asks if it's magic lighting. Noticing the surroundings, he says it's also known as the Magic Eating Dungeon, and warns that monsters there frequently use possession attacks, and they are a weakness for the warriors, adding that warriors of magic without magic are a hindrance here. Light reacts with an ah and says that's why his magic is needed. He confirms that it's right. He describes that without Light's lighting magic, they wouldn't have reached this dungeon, and says that the reason they're able to fight is because of Light's magic to guide the way, reflecting that he was able to strengthen without letting it decay. Light feels happy that his light magic is helping the A-rank party. The failure attribute Light. Agunil says that they have pretty much taken care of nearby undead and to rest here for today. Saya admits that she's tired. Agunil praises Saya, saying that she did well. Seeing that, Light expresses his emotions, telling he feels like hell. The priest says that they're now middle healing, as he begins to heal Agunil and Saya, and adds that it's just a precautionary healing magic. He shouts, "Begone, you unclean things." Agunil says that turn undead should also purify the area around them. Light wonders if there's anything he can do in times like this, and uses his skill, Sanctuary. The large area surrounding him begins to light up. Reacting with awe, Agunil says wow. Light notes that while this magic is active, monsters should have a hard time approaching. Agunil smiles and says that they're glad Light is here. Saya expresses gratitude, saying thanks to Light, they can now rest without worry. Light reflects that he is glad his magic could be of help to Saya, even if just a little. Agunil praises his high-level magic of that strength, while Light says that it's the only thing he is fully confident about. Agunil praises him again and says that it's wonderful and he is glad Light is here. With a grin in his face, Agunil thinks to himself Light being a sacrificial lamb, while Light is happy hearing all the praises, unknown to the things going behind him. Gathering around a campfire, the group takes a break. Saya and Priest are sleeping while Light and Agunil are having something to eat. Agunil says it's delicious and praises his skill. Light replies that he's very welcome and he loves cooking. Agunil comforts Saya, who rests on his shoulder. Reflecting quietly, Light feels uncomfortable. He then asks that things like that aren't heavy. Agunil realizes that it's a portable magic tank he was asking for. Agunil explains that it's heavy and cumbersome even as a mage, but it has built up quite the muscle. Agunil adds that carrying around such an amazing item was absolutely necessary because of the low magic capacity of the null attribute. He then mentions that there are limits when using magic transfer. Magic transfer is the act of sharing one's magic power with other. It's a general magic skill for magic users. However, the conversion efficiency is poor and about half of the magic power diminishes during the transfer. Agunil says that an item like this is not needed for someone like Light with a ton of magic power. Light replies that if this tank becomes available widely, it would be him that would be no longer needed. Agunil counters that it can't be mass-produced and it is one of a kind, and admits that because of the tank heaviness, he can't go. Speaking softly, Agunil says that he can't go to even greater heights. Light listens quietly. Agunil is a person who achieved a rank and the title of Great Sage at such a young age. Light reacts with a surprised what more could he want. Agunil exclaims that it's S-rank. Light gets surprised hearing it. Agunil adds that he's the youngest son of a count's family and even though he's a noble, the only thing he has is the name itself, and responds with a simple so, before continuing that he will seize an honor that outshines any family status, the legendary title of S-rank. Clenching his fist, Agunil declares that he'll rise up and grab his own honor. Light calls out to Agunil, addressing him as Agunil-san. Addressing it, Agunil declares that no matter what, he absolutely needs the Lich King's staff. He explains that if he can obtain it, his wish will be fulfilled for that purpose. Agunil adds that he'll do whatever it takes to achieve his goal. Light reacts with an uneasy expression. Agunil apologizes, saying that he's sorry because he might have gotten a bit too heated. He again apologies for his early behavior. Light listens quietly, taking in the situation. Light reflects that even though the magic tank is an artifact, it doesn't corrode. Explaining the magic tank, Agunil says that it's a special design that doesn't corrode. Light reacts with an impressed wow, and adds that it is truly an amazing invention. Agunil expresses gratitude, saying thanks to Light, and adds that it is his precious partner. As they approach the depths of the dungeon, the enemies become stronger. However, the group presses on. Agunil casts a spell Lightning Arrow. Saya follows with a spell Fire Tornado. Light watches in awe, amazed by their power. Entering a dark, eerie space, they swept everything away. They've now reached the Lich King's resting place. Agunil says that the staff is over there, the Necromancer King's staff. Light observes that all the monsters on the way are now nowhere to be seen in this eerie space. A countless number of coffins scattered around. If the ones hiding in those coffins were to awaken all at once, it would be dangerous. Agunil calls out to Light, saying that it's his turn. Light reacts with a confused huh and then a surprised yes. Agunil asks Light to please retrieve the staff. Light responds with a shocked what and exclaims that there's no way he can do it. Reassuring Light, Agunil says that he doesn't need to worry about his safety, as they'll protect him with all their strength. After this, Light hesitates with a nervous and then agrees with an okay, and he'll come to know everything. Reflecting on the situation, Light says that he had sensed that something was wrong. A menacing figure, the Lich King, emerges with a dark, skeletal form while he is holding a glowing staff. Agunil shouts that they can't defeat it, asking to bring the staff here and then he will be able to defeat it. Hearing that, Light throws the staff towards him. Agunil lets out a menacing AAA and tells that he hadn't thought that he would be so easily deceived. Responding that he's served well, the priest declares that Light, the one with the wrong attribute, light magic. Reflecting on his actions, Light admits that he pretended not to notice. He says that he's happy to be treated as someone with the useless attribute was needed and wanted to adventure with the person he admired. He wanted to prove that those who once looked down on him were wrong. Remembering a young Saya saying that they should go on adventures together. Recalling that Saya told Light that it was her dream to become an adventurer together with him. With a menacing face, Saya says it's as she told Agunil, and adds that for her, it's a piece of cake to trick Light. Light reacts with a shock and calls Saya. Facing the Lich King, Light exclaims if he's going to die in a place like this, he feels like a disposable tool. Overwhelmed by the situation, Light casts a spell labeled Holy Light, unleashing a powerful burst of light. The light engulfs the Lich King and the surrounding area, illuminating the darkness. Light declares that he'll survive, no matter what, and that he's different from the rest of them and get out of here. Casting another spell, Light shouts Holy Light as a radiant burst of light erupts. He continuously uses the spell again and again. He declares that he must escape before his magic runs out. Light warns that if he can't maintain the magic, magic, he'll be devoured by the bone in an instant. He unleashes another holy light spell, the light intensifying as it pushes back the darkness, reaching the exit of the sleeping chambers. Light reflects that he has to somehow make it there. He resolves to climb that hill, determined to overcome the challenge, urging himself to increase distance from the Lich and to move quickly. Feeling the strain of the battle, Light lets out a pained huzz. Blood drips from his wounds. He exclaims that this is magic deficiency, realizing that he can't use magic anymore. Light groans with an ugh, struggling to keep going. He admits that he's not yet done, showing his determination. Climbing up all the way, he notices something as he collapses near the magic tank. While the battle takes its toll, he questions if it's the magic tank, remembering Agunil's holding it before, and realizes that this is Agunil's magic tank. He sees that since he obtained the Lich King's staff, Agunil threw it away. Light pleads with an ugh, while the undead are chasing him, asking them to let there still be magic left. He hopes, and wonders how to use it. Noticing a switch on the tank, Light begs with a desperate please, hoping the tank still has power. Activating the tank, Light feels magic filling his entire body as blue energy surges around him. Feeling the surge of power, Light exclaims that this is incredible. He reflects that this feeling is different, pausing with a hesitant. Light questions why. Feeling the intensity of the magic, sitting in the aftermath, surrounded by the dungeon's eerie glow, he contemplates his experience. Light wonders if it feels the same as magic transfer, still processing the sensation. Reflecting on the sensation, he adds that this is different. Undead, unleashing a powerful Ra as they channel the energy. Light casts another holy light spell, the radiant energy bursting forth to hold off against the undead. He curses with a damn it, gripping the magic tank tightly. Sitting near the tank, Light resolves that he has to live and get out of there. The Lich King, still looming, lets out a menacing presence as the battle continues. Surrounded by the Lich King's energy, Light reacts with surprise as the magic surges. He lets out a pain as the power overwhelms him. The Lich King emits a menacing aura, its skeletal form glowing with dark energy. Light, clutching the magic tank, lets out a strained voice. The Lich King taunts that if Light can't defeat the boss, he'll be gone. He has to defeat the boss to leave the dungeon. Light realizes that this is the dungeon exit, and there has to be a way to exit the dungeon after clearing it. Light reflects that he needs to somehow immobilize the Lich for a short time. Reflecting on his situation, Light realizes that if he can make it, he'll be okay. The Lich King lets out a menacing aura, its dark energy swirling. A magical circle glows above, emitting a powerful aura. Light, clutching the magic tank, lets out a strained ugh as the energy intensifies. He exclaims that it's the magic tank, realizing its potential. Realizing his current magic is at full capacity, Light notes that as long as he can get his magic back, he can make it work. He casts a holy light spell, the light bursting forth. Light explains that it's a low-level spell, so he can cast it as many times as he wants. The Lich King lets out an aura, its dark energy swirling as it prepares to strike. Light, realizing the danger, notes if he can hold them off while running to exit, he can make it. The Lich King's skeletal hand reaches out, glowing with dark magic. Light, surrounded by the Lich King's energy, channels his power. The Lich King's presence is growing more threatening. A burst of energy erupts as Light and the Lich King clash, and it hits Light while Lich King lets out his menacing presence again. Lich King watches Light, but Light leaps up in the air, exclaiming that this is a light magic mirage, calling the real target is here. Lich, he declares that the bottom tier is going to break through this dungeon. As he strategizes that he'll use a direct assault, a one-man ambush strategy, he shouts to take the close-range attack. Light casts a powerful holy light spell, the radiant energy surging toward the Lich King. The Lich King and its dark energy clashing with the light. While light magic has zero attack power, its speed is ultra-fast, but it can't defeat them. Light keeps hitting with holy light spells. Light casts multiple holy light spells, the radiant energy striking the Lich King. Light keeps hitting, hoping the monster's movement will definitely slow down. The Lich King lets out a pained HGH, its dark energy faltering under the barrage. Light gets exhausted as he continues the assault. A notification appears, magic level up, Light attribute LVL 10-inch. Another notification follows, acquired magic, meteor shower. Light reflects that this is the final level 10 magic of Light. He channels the energy, his body glowing with power. Light stands amidst the dungeon, the Lich King's dark energy swirling around him. The Lich King's skeletal hand reaches out, its dark magic intensifying. Light, facing the overwhelming power, exclaims no way. As the situation escalates, the Lich King's skeletal hand reaches out, its dark energy surging. Light exclaims the Lich, as he faces the overwhelming power, slamming his own body with its hand. Lich Kings try to recover, and Light falls back to the ground. He questions if it can move again, shocked by the Lich King's resilience. The Lich King lets out a menacing aura, and its energy intensifying. It commands the undead to attack. The Lich King roars with a powerful roar, its skeletal form glowing with dark energy. Light, struggling against the dark magic, faces the Lich King's wrath. Light, overwhelmed overwhelmed by the Lich King's power, exclaims that this is bad, realizing that he can't dodge the attack. The Lich King's dark energy surges, its skeletal form towering over Light, and stands there watching it with its menacing presence. Light, clearly in pain, struggling to keep up with the battle. He stands up even after getting injured. The Lich King watches as he tells he won't go down that easily. Bleeding and battered, tells the Lich King that the same goes for him. He declares that now he can use the ultimate magic of a light attribute at the max. Light channels his power, glowing with radiant energy, and shouts, "Here it comes. Here you go." As Light prepares his final attack, Light unleashes Meteor Shower, a powerful spell that rains down beams of light on the Lich King and its minions. The Lich King and its forces are engulfed in the radiant assault, trembling under the attack. The Lich King's form disintegrating under the Meteor Shower. The radiant beams of light continue to rain down, obliterating the Lich King and its minions. Light, exhausted, notes that the magic power consumption is unreal and nearly all of his capacity is gone in a single shot. As he feels the toll of the battle, the light fades, leaving the dungeon in silence. Light realizes that the Lich is dead and there's no sound at all, confirming the victory. He exclaims that he did it, having finally defeated an enemy with light magic. The Lich King lets out a roar, its form still standing despite the Meteor Shower. Light, shocked, as he realizes the Lich King is unharmed. The Lich King looms over Light, its dark energy swirling menacingly. Light exclaims that it's unharmed, stunned by the Lich King's resilience. A status window opens, showing Light's magic power. He looks at it and examines the details of his Meteor Shower spell, noting that the light rays cover the designated area, brighter than normal but burning the field of vision. A final notification appears, attack power 0, still standing. Questions what it is doing, noting that this isn't the level 10 magic's highest ranking spell, and its max light attribute. Undead laughs with a menacing voice, seeing Light's efforts completely useless. He questions that it would be so convenient to get an attack spell of the light attribute. With realization, he laughs out loud, feeling the frustration. Completely useless, and declares that a dead-end attribute like light magic is no match for it. Light, frustrated, exclaims, "Damn it, damn it, damn it," as he faces the Lich King. All the exhaustion takes a toll on his body. His hand drips with blood, a result of its magic deficiency affecting its organs. He wonders if they are ruptured. Seeing the magic tank, Light, desperate, declares that he can still fight, pleading for more magic from the tank. He reaches for the magic tank, hoping to draw more power. A human hand emerges from the rubble, surprising Light. Light exclaims, "A human hand," shocked by the unexpected appearance. Light, still reeling from the battle, mutters, "A human hand," as he looks at the hand. He gets shocked as a figure emerges from the rubble. Remembering the time when he talked about a portable magic tank, he recalls Agunil saying it's heavy and cumbersome, and shouts Agunil upon seeing the magic tank, cursing with a "you damn," recalling everything about the groundbreaking invention, a magic tank, and how Agunil told it was heavy and cumbersome. He says those are not the words you say to a human. With determination, he declares that he will get her out of there right now, determined to save her. Light, still in shock, begins to remove the cover of the magic tank. He notices a girl inside the magic tank, and gets surprised by her appearance, exclaiming that she's alive. He is relieved to see another survivor. The girl's attribute is also light. Light realizes it and notes that she is just a person used for magic transfer. He thinks that to make it easy to carry, she probably didn't even have the proper meals. Thinking that he kept her inside without letting her out and always making her release magic for him, he becomes sad, and adds that even now, just by touching her, he can feel the child's magic flowing into him. As he feels the magic flowing, he remembers even back then it was the same. Even back then when he was carrying the tank, he didn't know. He apologizes, saying sorry for the misunderstanding, and feels sad as he hugs her. And even after all this, she is still giving him the magic. The Lich King lets out a menacing growl, its dark energy surging as it prepares to strike. Light casts a holy light spell, the radiant energy bursting forth to hold off the Lich King. He describes he was considered a walking torch and magic tank, noting that he's been ridiculed so much for being a useless attribute. But even so, Light, frustrated, shouts Agunil as he realizes he's never been treated like this before. Remembering the words of Agunil, "To even greater heights. For that purpose, I'll do whatever it takes." He finally gets what he meant, and he was used to get the Lich King's staff. And once Agunil had the staff, he discarded the child as if she was nothing, laughing as he did. He declares that he won't forgive him and won't let this go, his determination flaring. As he holds the girl, he urges the girl to go together and get out of there, saying he's felt this way before. He tells her to lend her magic, promising to make this work, and vows to defeat Agunil himself. Light, filled with pure 100% rage, channels his anger. Light stands amidst the dungeon, the Lich King's dark energy still lingering. He activates Holy Light, maximum output, continuous activation, pouring all his power into the spell. The radiant energy bursts forth, purifying the light as Light explains that even with an attack power of 0, it's still a purifying light you'd never see before. He warns the Lich King that it would wanna make way for this attack. Light, struggling, lets out a strained AAA as he pushes the spell to its limits. A notification appears. Light magic has reached the maximum value, it's maxed out. Light, casting another holy light to finish the fight. Another notification confirms. Light magic has reached the maximum value, it's maxed out. Light, still casting holy light. Holy light high, tells the girl to get out of there with him. He continues to pour out his magic, the notifications repeatedly flashing. Light magic has reached the maximum value, it's maxed out. Vowing to get out, he uses it again and again, and repeatedly shouts, "We're getting out." Light, frustrated, tells to shut up, and to give him attack power, seeing all the notifications, calling it a piece of something harsh. Light, overwhelmed, as the situation intensifies. The Lich King's dark energy surges, its skeletal hand reaching out menacingly. The Lich King's skeletal hand, glowing with dark energy, reaches out toward Light and the girl. Light stands protectively in front of the girl, who is on the ground, as the Lich King's skeletal hand lands on him. The Lich King, towering over Light and the girl, lands a strike, shielding her from the Lich King's attack. The girl, still on the ground, and Light begins to fall as the situation grows dire. Light, struggling with the pain, grits his teeth as he faces the Lich King's overwhelming power, his hand glowing with the last of his magic, and vows to not lose and have to stay alive. With determination, he says ho, ly, with a hope of survival as he uses his magic, in order to save that child, referring to her. A notification appears. Light magic level error, indicating something unusual is happening. He wonders status error as his magic begins to falter. Light, realizing the severity, exclaims, "Could it? No way." It's magic power depletion as he faces the consequences of overusing his magic. The Lich King looms in the background, its dark energy surging as the situation grows more desperate. A notification appears. Light magic level up, indicating a significant change. Another notification follows. Reach the upper limit for Light attribute achievement unlocked. Light, confused, mutters what as he processes the information. A new notification reads, Light attribute evolution. The system prompts, would you like to evolve from Light attribute to Ray attribute? Light, still in shock, questions if this is really happening, grappling with the idea of attribute evolution. The system prompts, would you like to evolve from Light attribute to Ray attribute, with options yes and no. He is even more confused as he's never heard of attribute evolution. He hesitates, saying but, as he considers the implications of this evolution. Light, determined, declares of course I'll accept this. As he faces the evolution prompt, he presses the yes button, confirming his choice to evolve his Light attribute into the Ray attribute. A radiant burst of energy engulfs Light, his body glowing with intense light as the evolution takes place. Light lets out a strained ugh. It's so bright as the transformation overwhelms him. Light, now radiating with newfound power, stands amidst the blinding light. A notification appears, while he exclaims his surprise, saying what the status screen is. As his evolution completes, another notification confirms, attribute evolution complete. Evolve from Light to Ray. Light, still glowing, mutters it's Light again, but named Ray instead. As he processes the change, he notices there's newly acquired magic, with the status screen showing LV1, laser, new. Light, confused, mutters what? Laser. As he examines the new ability, he feels the power, noting it's hot, as energy gathers at his fingertips. Realizing that magic power is gathering at his index and middle fingers, the energy crackles with intensity. With his newly evolved Ray attribute, he feels his instincts kicking in, urging him to aim at the Lich King with his fingers. The Lich King looms menacingly, its dark energy swirling as it prepares to strike. Focusing his power, he channels the energy into a concentrated beam, shouting defeat it. As he unleashes his new ability, a blinding laser beam shoots from Light's fingers, piercing through the darkness toward the Lich King. The intense light engulfs the area as he fires out his laser beam. A notification appears, laser activation fire, confirming the successful use of his new skill. Light, overwhelmed by the power, braces himself as the laser strikes its target. Light, still unleashing his laser as the beam intensifies. The laser strikes the Lich King directly, piercing through its dark energy and skeletal form. The Lich King lets out a furious roar as the laser tears through it. Its body begins to disintegrate. The intense light overwhelms the Lich King, causing its form to shatter and break apart under the sheer power of the Ray attribute. The surrounding area is engulfed in a blinding flash, the remnants of the Lich King's dark energy dissipating into nothingness. Light, his eyes wide with determination, stands amidst the aftermath of his laser attack. The remnants of the Lich King's dark energy swirl chaotically, its skeletal form completely shattered by Light's laser. The surrounding undead minions, caught in the aftermath, watch him in awe. Lich King collapses on the ground and starts to disintegrate. Light, still glowing with the power of his Ray attribute, stands amidst the chaos. He mutters what the hell is this, as he witnesses the sheer destructive power of his new ability. The area is filled with a lingering glow, the dark energy of the Lich King finally eradicated. Still reeling from the battle, he mutters took it out in one hit. bit as he looks at the aftermath of his laser attack, explaining that it even melted the rock wall behind the Lich King with such heat as if it were glass. Light, exhausted, says status open as he tries to process what just happened. He opens his status screen. The status screen reveals Ray, attribute LV.1 laser, pierces everything with the power of science. Output can be based on the magic power. It further shows attack power 100,000-infinity with a note that the minimum attack power is 100,000. Light, in disbelief as he realizes the magnitude of his new power. He shouts, "Are you kidding me? That's insane," as the reality of his evolved ability sinks in. The Lich King's remnants let out a final grr as they begin to charge. Light, still glowing with the power of his Ray attribute, stands in the dungeon as the remaining undead are charging. Undead are rumored to be a horde of 1,000 now. Light, focusing his energy, declares to me, "This is the long-awaited attack power I've dreamed of," as he prepares to unleash another laser. He adds, "They're nothing but small fry," as he aims at the approaching undead. A concentrated beam of light shoots from Light's fingers, piercing through the horde of undead with ease. The laser obliterates the enemies, their skeletal forms disintegrating in a flash of light. Even the Phantom was annihilated in one move. He notes that even his stomach wound stopped bleeding, and thanks to the attribute evolution. Light, feeling his strength returning, declares, "My magic power has returned, even if I'm still beaten to shreds." He stands tall, his body battered but his resolve unbroken. The girl, still on the ground, and Light looks at her and says, "Thank you for saving me." Light, with a determined smile, responds, "I'll definitely make it out of here. Let's go." He channels his Ray attribute, shouting, "With my Ray magic," as he prepares to unleash another laser. Light fires a concentrated beam of light, the laser cutting through the dungeon's obstacles with precision, clearing a path for their escape. Shouting with determination, Light shouts, "Be gone." He unleashes a powerful laser, cutting through the remaining enemies. The laser obliterates the obstacles, clearing a path through the dungeon. Exclaiming with intensity, Light commands the laser to fire. A notification appears, confirming that Light has leveled up as an adventurer. Appearing on the screen, a notification confirms Light's level up multiple times. Light declares that with his power in his hands, he can cut through everything in his path. He exclaims that he will survive and get out of the dungeon, adding that he will show the sky to the girl who has been trapped in the dark tank, the one who was treated as nothing but a useless tool. As he remembers, Agunil smirks, observing the situation. Radiating with energy, Light stands ready to break through the dungeon's barriers. Channeling his energy, Light unleashes a final laser to break through the dungeon. He shouts, "Wait for me," as he fires the laser, remembering what Agunil did to him and the girl. The laser pierces the dungeon wall. Agunil feels the tremor and questions what that was. A bright landscape with mountains outside gets pierced by the magic of light. Looking up at the light, Light stands in the dungeon as it pours through the hole he created. He questions what the light is. Exhausted from the battle, Light collapses on the ground. A close-up of a yellow eye watches the scene. Gazing at the light, the girl kneels beside Light. Just before the light aimed his laser toward the sky, Agunil and his party members return with the staff. He curses in frustration, feeling that he will collapse from exhaustion. "The darkness makes you waste the energy unnecessarily. You can't let your guard down for even a moment." And Agunil realizes that in the end, Light was actually useful beyond being bait. Light mutters that he feels like he's being used as bait. Agunil stands amidst the undead, their dark energy swirling around, and begins to charge at him from behind. The priest casts a spell, lightning crackling around them. Agunil curses and uses the lightning arrow, urging the group to run. Saya notes that they need to get out of there. She adds that the undead are awakening everywhere, making it troublesome, exclaiming that she can't take it anymore. Addressing Agunil directly, Agunil pleads for them to hang in there, noting they are almost out. The group stands together, nearly collapsing from exhaustion. Agunil tells her to light the way as they can't see the path. Denying the request, she tells she is at her limit and asks if he can use light magic. Insulting Saya, Agunil calls her a useless dumb woman. He reflects that he let her join the party because of her attack power and looks, adding that she doesn't even have a brain, calling her garbage. He declares that he wants to ditch Saya right now but notes her magic provides light a bit. Muttering Saya's name, he reaches out a hand. Agunil pleads that he needs light to get out of there, and admits that it's true he can use light magic, but his power is limited, explaining that he needs to conserve his magic power for emergencies. Saya questions why Agunil doesn't just use the Lich King's staff. Explaining the staff's nature, Agunil says it's an unknown item that can't be used until it's examined. He urges Saya to hang in there a little longer. Saya mutters in frustration, reacting to Agunil's words. She casts a small flame, shouting for light to illuminate their path. The group stands together, the flame revealing their dire situation. Agunil notes that the light is pathetic and only lasts a few minutes. He adds that the flame is about due for a replacement, and questions if he discarded the other too soon but considers other options. A cracking sound echoes, startling Agunil as he questions what it is. Noticing the glowing ground, the group stands in alarm as it turns red. The priest exclaims that it's not right, showing his confusion. confusion. Agunil mutters that he doesn't quite understand the situation. A fiery explosion erupts, forcing Agunil to shout for everyone to run away. Light unleashes a laser, trying to counter the fiery blast. Saya gasps in shock, reacting to the sudden explosion. She screams that it's fire, overwhelmed by the heat. Burning in fire, Agunil shouts to extinguish the flames. Saya exclaims that any liquid is fine. Reacting to the potion's smell, she screams that it stinks. The group stands together, the potion's stench overwhelming them. Agunil notes that it's better than dying. Their clothes get burned in the flames. Saya exclaims that the smell is gross and smelly. The priest questions if this hole could lead them all to the lair, showing his concern. Pointing at the sky, Agunil notes that it is visible above them. The priest questions if this is the Lich King's magic. Saya urges the group to come on, while the priest suggests throwing some offerings for Light. She adds that she wouldn't, as that guy was annoying even as a kid. Saya questions what Light's attribute magic is, calling it the worst. Agunil mutters in response, reacting to Saya's words. He warns that if this is the Lich King's magic, they're in trouble. Agunil concludes that if it devours Light, they're next. Noting the situation, the priest says that this is bad. Urging Saya to act, Agunil exclaims that they need Light. Saya declares that she's on it, preparing to cast a spell. Agunil urges the group to come on, noting they need to get out as fast as they can. A small light illuminates the dungeon, casting a faint glow on the walls. Light's hand trembles, showing his exhaustion as he tries to get up. Illuminating the dungeon, a small light casts a faint glow on the walls, showing his surprise at the situation. Light's eyes widen. He mutters in confusion, questioning if he's alive. Light adds that he took a fatal wound to his stomach, reflecting on his injury. He recalls that in desperation, he yelled out for help, shouting for Agunil to wait for him. Light questions how he survived, still processing his condition. Widening his eyes, Light shows his surprise at the situation. He casts a small light, illuminating the dungeon walls. Light winces in pain, noting that it hurts, showing his battered state. He adds that his clothes are still ripped, and explains that there's no way Agunil and the others came back. Looking around in confusion, Light questions who patched him up. The white-haired girl stands nearby, watching Light with concern, showing a mix of confusion and gratitude. Light looks up at her, noticing the white-haired girl. Light observes her pale white skin and hair. He realizes that she's the girl who was in the mana tank. The white-haired girl looks down at Light. She points at the light above, drawing Light's attention. He explains that he can use magic again and asks if she patched him up, showing his curiosity. Looking at him, she stands in silence. He responds that he sees, expressing his gratitude for being saved. Explaining the healing process, Light notes that there is a lingering smell of medicinal herbs on the items used to treat him. He adds that he can tell he has gained muscles through the bandages. Light reflects that his adventurer level increased, so he healed quickly. Explaining adventurer level reflects physical growth. In contrast, magic levels improve based on magic proficiency. Light recalls that the adventurer level doesn't increase much unless he defeats enemies. He adds that support roles like healers only gain basic experience, noting that in the boss room, the one who took him down gained the experience. He opens his status window, checking his progress. Light looks at the status screen, processing the information. Checking his status, Light notes that he was level 15 before but is now level 30. He widens his eyes, realizing he must have defeated the Lich King. Light reflects that for an adventurer, defeating enemies is natural, and adds that he couldn't do it until now, showing his past struggles. Observing the damage, Light notices the marks left on the rock wall. He mutters that it's no longer the case, showing his determination. The white-haired girl sneezes, reacting to the dusty air. Light asks if she's okay, telling her to wait a moment. Observing the white-haired girl, Light notices that everything is covered in blood. He drapes his cloak over her, saying it'll warm her up a bit, showing a hint of surprise. The white-haired girl looks at Light. Light says right. In response, he introduces himself as Light, asking for her name. The white-haired girl stands beside Light. Light remarks that looking closely, her features are stunning. Admiring her beauty, he adds that her eyes are like polished obsidian. The white-haired girl responds with a soft "yeah," revealing her name. Showing his understanding, Light repeats her name as Yami. Standing beside Yami, Light notes that she replied to him. He repeats her name, Yami, showing a hint of confusion. Her expression still soft but distant. Yami looks at Light. Light observes that she's not quite talkative, noting that she's been crammed in that tank for who knows how long. He glances at Agunil, who is laughing in the background in his memories. The priest laughs loudly, saying he's the one with the light attribute. Light tells himself to hold it together for now, offering support. He suggests that they head to his town, proposing a plan. Her expression showing a mix of uncertainty and curiosity as Yami looks at Light. Smiling at Yami, Light says he wants to show her the world outside. Showing a hint of curiosity, Yami looks at Light. Light reflects that even if they escape, he can't leave her alone like this. He adds that if that's the case, he'll need money to move forward. But before that, he asks Yami if she could wait a little longer, showing his concern, as there's still something he needs to get done. Smiling confidently, Light declares that it's time to gather the loot as he stands beside Yami. Light adds that the loot is for Yami and his future. Picking up a glowing orb, Yami looks at it with curiosity. She tilts her head, showing her confusion about the item. Light explains that it's the core of an undead. He adds that loot like that drops when you defeat enemies and can get good stuff. Noting that undead loot is pretty cheap, Light continues that when he brings it back, he can trade it for money. He reflects that there's no way Agunil is going to pay him the quest reward, adding that his equipment is all in tatters, showing his current state. Yami sits nearby, listening to Light's explanation with interest. Picking up a glowing orb, holding the undead cores, Light asks Yami if she's okay helping him, expressing his gratitude. Yami nods slightly, showing her agreement. Light calls out to Yami, ensuring she's with him. Yami falls to the ground and Light catches her. He notices a magic box, realizing she's been through a lot inside it, and reflects that even with that, she undressed him and treated his wounds. Light tells Yami to rest here, as there are no more monsters ahead. He adds that he'll gather the loot himself, her expression softening as Yami looks at Light. Light assures her that it's okay and that he won't leave her behind. He starts moving forward, determined to continue their journey. Wrapping herself in Light's cloak, Yami closes her eyes, feeling a sense of calm. Light looks around the dungeon, with a hint of confusion. He questions where Agunil and the others are, wondering if they just ran off. Light mutters that Yami must have used potions and herbs, noting that they'll be useful. Noticing some clothes among them, he looks at a pile of items. Light identifies them as Saya's spare clothes. Realizing he can find something for Yami to wear, he examines the fabric, noting that it's just scraps of fabric, almost like strings. Light sighs, reflecting that Yami only has her undergarments on. Observing Yami, Light notes that he has to find her something to wear. He adds that she must be cold, showing his concern. Light panics, realizing that if he walks around with a girl dressed like that, he'll get arrested. He exclaims that he has no messed up hobbies and that his light magic just evolved into ray magic. Remembering the priest, he mutters that it's back at the orphanage. Recalling rumors about the disgusting priest, he adds that the priest preyed on orphan girls, revealing a dark past. Light reflects that it was said the priest took them in and then traded them away. He questions if Saya was one of them. Light adds that if Saya was the priest's lover, then she's become Agunil's lover, and if that means they were connected since the start. Light concludes that if the priest's other rumor is true, it could be significant. He recalls the rumors of the orphans sent to human traffickers, and adds that Agunil treated Yami like a tool. It would suggest Yami was just a commodity bought with money. Realizing that Yami is a living tool from that priest, Light clenches his fist, his expression filled with determination. He tells himself that for now, getting the Lich King's loot is his priority. Light continues to gather the undead cores, preparing for their next steps. Holding an undead core, Light notes that even the Lich King's ashes have value, and he'll recover everything. He adds that if there's anything in that altar, it might be significant. Light looks surprised, noticing some old cloth among the items. He examines the cloth, questioning what it is. Light realizes that the Lich King's robe turned to ash, but this might be a burial shroud. He smiles, declaring that it's perfect. Light calls out to Yami, holding the shroud. Yami lies on the ground, resting as Light approaches her. Looking at Yami, Light apologizes for making her wait, noting that it's almost time to go. He hands her a dark robe, telling her to put it on. Yami examines the robe, noting that Light made it from the Lich King's robe with his hands. Showing her appreciation, she puts on the robe. Light smiles, saying it's perfect and that it suits her. Yami looks at Light. He asks if she likes it, as she begins to run. He calls out to Yami, offering his hand to help her up, her expression showing a mix of trust and hesitation. Yami looks at Light's hand. She remembers shadowy figures looming around. Light pats her head gently. He smiles at her, saying they should leave together. Yami looks at Light, and responds with a quiet yes, showing her agreement, reflecting her newfound hope and trust in Light. Noticing Yami's state, Light observes that she's asleep. He tells her that the exit is still far away, encouraging her to hop on his back. Yami looks at Light, her expression showing a mix of concern and trust. Light reassures her not to worry, though he admits that it might be tough. He reflects that thanks to his adventurer level going up, he's getting stronger. Light adds that he's used to carrying stuff as an errand boy, but he might have gotten a little too greedy. He looks at Yami, showing a hint of determination. Carrying Yami on his back, Light notes that she's really light. He adds that it's not just a feeling, comparing it to how heavy baggage usually feels. Light reflects that there was never anyone this light back at the orphanage, as he remembers Agunil noting that the baggage feels heavy and cumbersome. Light looks ahead, his expression focused, realizing Agunil really focused on making Yami small and lightweight. Cursing, Light calls him a bastard. Yami looks at Light, her expression showing a hint of confusion. Light turns his head slightly, asking Yami if she's awake. Yami clings to Light, and asks if he is alright. Light responds that he's fine. Reassuring her, he tells her that he's now level 30 and has the strength to spare. He points ahead, encouraging her to look. Yami looks forward forward with curiosity. Light notes that the wind is blowing, and the air, once filled with the stench of death, now carries the scent of greenery. They approach the exit of the dungeon, with Light visible at the end of the stairs. Light continues walking, his steps steady as they near the outside world. Yami clings to Light, her expression softening as she senses the change in the air. Emerging from the dungeon, Light looks at the bright sky, feeling a sense of relief. He declares that they made it and are finally out, his voice filled with joy. Light laughs, his expression brightening as he takes in the fresh air. Yami looks at him, her eyes wide with curiosity, mimicking his laughter with a soft ha. They stand under the bright sun, surrounded by the forest greenery glistening in the light. The scent of grass and soil is carried by the wind, filling the air with freshness. Birds flap their wings in the sky, adding to the serene atmosphere. Helping Yami down, Light tells her to get on her feet. He asks how it feels, checking on her comfort, and questions if it feels good. She adds that it's soft, referring to the ground beneath her feet. Light smiles, asking if she can see the world now, encouraging her to take it in. Yami looks around, her eyes wide with wonder. A small dark tank lies on the ground. As he remembers it, Light tells Yami that the world she sees is vast, bright, and beautiful. Standing in the forest, Light tells Yami to take a deep breath, encouraging her to experience the fresh air. He looks at her, his expression warm and reassuring. Light suddenly shouts that he's back, his voice filled with excitement and relief. He raises his arms, celebrating their return to the outside world. Light laughs loudly. Yami looks at him, her expression curious, mimicking his laughter with a soft ha ha ha. She watches Light, her eyes filled with wonder and a growing sense of happiness. Looking at her, his expression filled with relief and joy. Yami mimics his excitement, letting out a soft wah and oh as she takes in the world around her. Light smiles warmly, his eyes reflecting the bright sky. He recalls the hardships they faced, being betrayed and almost killed by monsters in the dungeon. Yami's past flashes through his mind, remembering how she was trapped in a tank like a tool by Agunil. Agunil with blue eyes appears in his thoughts, saying they didn't lose to Light. Light clenches his fist and shouts that they survived, his voice echoing through the forest. Standing under the bright sky, Light reflects that at that moment, he had no idea of the true malice of those two, hinting at a deeper darkness. He looks at Yami, his smile returning as he pushes the thoughts aside. The scene shifts to a brighter future, filled with unspeakable shadows yet to come. They walk toward a village, the sky still bright and the air filled with the sound of whispers. The village comes into view, with people talking and moving about. The priest approaches the village. A wagon with 2 horses stands in the village square, drawing attention. Inside the wagon, Saya notices that people are staring a lot. Agunil comments that an old guy is driving the wagon, making others to stare, and wonders why he has to look like this. Saya cries out that she'll never be able to get married now. Agunil snaps at her to shut up, calling her a brat in his mind. Noting that all their supplies were burned to ash and there's some loot left in the wagon but not enough, he calls out to Kuts and tells him to stop somewhere, stating that it's time to handle something. Saya looks at the man driving Kuts, as he mutters to himself. Agunil declares that it's obvious they're going to rob a compliant, wealthy person's money and clothes. Kuts protests, saying they can't do that, countering that it's a rough area with poor security, but there are still guards patrolling, so committing a crime isn't the answer. Saya looks confused. Agunil asks Saya if she needs to wash up, pointing out her disheveled state. Saya admits that she does smell bad. Agunil smirks, noting that they're the legendary Silverwool party, his voice hinting at their reputation, suggesting that if they ask for help, people will happily give them anything. The man driving Kuts retorts that that won't work, telling that no one's going to believe them in these clothes. Agunil then tells them that they'll just have to kill and take what they need. With uncertain expression, Saya looks at Agunil. Kuts protests that Agunil will absolutely not tarnish the party's name. Agunil responds with a resigned fine, and adds that it looks like they'll have to return to the guild after all, noting that they've got funds and supplies stored there. Kuts questions what Agunil was even thinking, as he wonders that if he did something like that and got caught, it would jeopardize all future business prospects. Agunil curses the priest under his breath, reflecting that he's committed all sorts of borderline crimes himself. Agunil notes that nevertheless, his magic power hasn't returned. Agunil muses that if only it did, he would hunt some monsters, sell their drops, and make do, his voice determined. Reflecting on Yami's fate, Agunil mutters that she must have died already by now. Agunil adds that thinking about it now, it's such a waste, his voice tinged with regret. Yami, being so small and light, possessed extraordinary magic power, as Agunil recalls. Breaking her wasn't easy, though, Agunil notes with a hint of frustration. The Lich King's staff, Agunil observes, took a significant impact but didn't get a single scratch. Curiously, Agunil wonders if it's made of some special material. Wondering about the staff, Agunil questions if it's cursed somehow. Agunil decides he'll need to return to the capital to investigate. Noting the challenge, Agunil states that if he can't use it, he'll have to remake the tank from scratch. Agunil points out that the magic tank has too many limitations. He explains explains that it requires a person to remain inside, maintained at the edge of life and death, and he has to carry the tank himself. Agunil adds that on top of that, the person needs to be small, light, and have high magic power, preferably a young girl. Recalling past experiments, Agunil mentions that in the research phase, he even tried amputating limbs. Agunil concludes that they didn't last long. Addressing the wagon, Agunil says to Kuts that once they get back, he needs to get him a child as usual. Agunil adds that he doesn't care how much it costs. Pointing out the rarity, Agunil explains that whoever the girl is with the highest magic power, either shadow or light attributes, is fine. Kuts notes that both shadow and light attributes are rare. He mentions that especially shadow is only 1 in 10,000. Agunil suggests checking the larger orphanages or contacting the slave traders they're connected to. The man driving Kuts responds with a simple understood. Agunil states that he doesn't think they'll find either attribute at a bargain price and concludes that as soon as he locates one, he'll deliver them. Explaining the situation, Agunil notes that unless they're stunning, in which case they can serve other purposes, shadow or light attributes don't sell well even as slaves. Agunil adds that if a shadow child isn't found quickly, they're often discarded for being unusable, recalling that in the first place, that light attribute guy staying in the orphanage for so long without being cast out is rare. Laughing darkly, Agunil says they're doing them a favor. By buying and using such trash, they're helping. Agunil asks if that isn't so. Yami. Looking at Yami, Agunil notes that at first, her face showed she trusted him. Watching her face, Agunil reflects on the change. Crumbling little by little, Yami's hope fades as she sits in confinement, and that was the best part. At the end, being shoved into the tank, that expressionless face, Yami's fear intensifies as she relives the moment. Laughing maniacally, Agunil declares that he could relive that moment forever, saying it was perfection. Saya watches him, laughing with a twisted glee, as he reflects that it's nothing compared to the thrill of trampling on someone's dignity, declaring he deserves this enjoyment. Laughing maniacally, he mocks the world with its absurdity. The man driving Kuts watches in silence. Agunil adds that he overcame that humiliation, stating that he then rose above it. Agunil asserts that he has every right to take vengeance and do as he pleases. Shouting with conviction, Agunil proclaims that isn't that right, calling the world unjust. Noticing their surroundings, Light points out that there it is. Light calls out to Yami to come over here. Smiling, he says he has one request for her. Stating again, Light mentions that he has just one request. He points out if she sees that spring over there. Suggesting a solution, Light proposes they go wash up. Hesitating for a moment, Yami seems unsure. Light encourages her, saying it feels good and she should try. Urging gently, Light tells Yami to come now. Admitting their state, Light says they both smell pretty bad. Light confesses that he's covered in sweat and dirt too. Offering a bar of soap, Light hands it to Yami, noting she was stuck in that tank for so long. Light thinks that it's no wonder she smells and adds that he'll wash himself too. Offering some food, Light mentions that as expected of an A-rank adventurer, they brought some good jerky and adds that he got them for free. Noticing Yami's absence, Light comments that she should be done soon too. Light calls out to Yami, asking if she's done. Yami doesn't respond, remaining silent. Calling again, Light says, "Hey, Yami." Light shouts Yami's name, growing concerned. Light reassures himself that he's going to peek a little, saying it's okay. Shouting in confusion, Light asks what's going on here. Noticing Yami in the water with her clothes on, Light calls out to Yami, saying, "Hey, Yami," and explains that she knows she's supposed to take off her clothes before getting into the water, right? Yami remains silent, unsure how to respond. Panicking slightly, Light wonders if they have to start from there. Light instructs Yami to take off her clothes first, saying it's okay. Alright? Yami hesitates, saying no. Light hums in response. Noticing her hesitation, Yami explains that if she takes them off, they'll be gone. Light reassures her that there's no need to worry since these are her clothes, adding that he'll wash them for her, so they'll be nice and clean, and mentions that Yami will be clean too. He says alright, encouraging her to proceed. Light calls out to Yami, asking if she's done yet. Yami remains silent, not responding. Light wonders if she didn't get the idea. Light calls Yami's name again, raising his voice and announces that he's going to check a little, saying it's okay. Reacting with a startled HAA as Light approaches and realizes she was just staring at the water the whole time. Light questions if she even knows the concept of washing her body and how she has managed to survive until now. Light sighs, noting that she was inside the tank. Light reflects that if she catches a cold like this, it'll be a problem. Acknowledging that Yami is a girl, but he never had inappropriate thoughts about her. Light admits that this is just him convincing himself mentally. Light decides that he'll wash her up first. Reassuring, Light insists that it's not weird, explaining he's just helping since it's clearly hard for her to do it alone. Yami mumbles and Light, flustered, exclaims that do not just take the first part of his sentence out of context. Light tells Yami that they're done, saying alright. Yami stands in her clean clothes, Light suggests that they walk a bit further and then stop for food, then asks Yami if she wants to ride on his back. He responds that she can just let Light know if she gets tired, adding that he can carry her anytime. Smiling gently, Light looks at Yami as they walk. The sun sets, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Suddenly, a monstrous creature emerges from the trees, its eyes glowing with malice. Light and Yami watch, facing the new threat. Light swiftly draws his spell, ready to protect Yami, and he fights against them. Light quickly assesses the situation, noting that there are a lot of them but they're weak. Urgently, Light shouts for Yami to get behind him. Yami hesitates, prompting Light to call her name again, asking what she's doing. Yami's eyes widen as she stares at the creatures. Light, growing more desperate, yells Yami's name once more, trying to snap her out of her daze. After defeating the goblins, he asks Yami if she didn't hear him, explaining that goblins might be weak, but they'll kill her if they get the chance. Yami looks at Light with a questioning expression. Light growls in frustration, holding Yami close. Yami lets out a small growl in response. Light sighs, his expression softening. As the sun sets, Light suggests they eat something now since it'll be dark soon. Light adds that he'll prepare the camp in the shadows of that rock over there, instructing Yami to call out to him if anything happens, and reflects that it's no wonder she doesn't know the basics. Light adds that it's because she's been confined for so long. Light pauses, thinking to himself with a soft hum. He wonders, with a serious tone, just who she is. Light and Yami sit by the campfire as the stew cooks. Light asks Yami if it smells good, right? Yami responds, curious, asking if it's called stew. Light confirms that it's a special forest stew, explaining that he made it because it's one of his favorite recipes from all his quests. Light points out the ingredients, noting that these leaves smell like garlic, and these root vegetables turn creamy when boiled, mentioning that they've got 5 kinds of herbs and some good jerky as ingredients this time. He announces that it's done, saying there they go. Light tells Yami that this might be his best yet, looking excited. He warns Yami to be careful since it's hot, instructing her to blow on it first, explaining that she should use the spoon to scoop it up. Light demonstrates, saying foo, foo, to cool the stew. Yami mimics him, also saying foo, foo. Yami takes a bite. Seeing that, Light asks how it was. Yami looks at Light with admiration, indicating it was good. Light smiles, glad to hear that she likes it, and advises Yami to take her time and chew well, saying she can eat as much as she likes. Under the night sky, Light calls out to Yami, saying he'd like to learn more about her. Light adds that if he can ask her a few questions. Yami responds in silence at his suggestion. Light asks Yami how old she is. She admits that she doesn't know. Light then inquires about her family name and she repeats that she doesn't know, letting out a small foo. As she eats, Light asks if she can use magic. Yami again says she doesn't know. Light asks if she knows where her home is, suggesting that if it's okay, he'll take her back to town since it's an orphanage. Yami replies that it's the tower, and he says that the magic tower isn't her home and the place she was at before. Yami adds that she doesn't know anything else, reflecting on the past. Yami remembers that on that day, he told her that was her home. Light, with a worried expression, says that's wrong, pointing out the truth. Light notes that they didn't welcome her as family in that magic tower, did they? Yami, puzzled, tilts her head as she processes his words. Addressing her directly, Light knows she's the girl who doesn't know anything. Thinking back, he thought she lacked survival instincts. Light continues by explaining that it's worse than that. He elaborates, stating that she grew up in a place where the very idea of the value of her life didn't exist. With a worried tone, Light wonders Yami about the kind of things they subjected her to. Light emits a soft thud as he processes his thoughts. Sighing quietly, Yami falls asleep, feeling the moment's weight. Light gazes at Yami, his expression growing gentler. He smiles at her. Carefully, Light takes a cup, preparing to settle down for the night. Light wraps Yami in a comforting embrace, offering her warmth. Reflecting on the day, Light notes that it's been a long one. Stars illuminate the night sky, creating a peaceful scene as they flicker around. As he cries, Light swears that he'll never forgive them. He proclaims that when he returns to the magic tower in the capital, he'll ensure her vengeance. He discloses that Agunil exploited him as a scapegoat, and elaborates, revealing that they can find Yami in that tank. Light, deep in thought, confesses that he's considered killing them. He admits, with a heavy tone, that he still thinks about it. Pausing for a moment, Light adds a hesitant but. Light looks down at Yami, who sleeps calmly in his arms. He concludes, with a sigh, that he might get arrested if he follows through, and wonders aloud what would happen to Yami. He realizes that she'd end up sold off, alone, noting that she has no knowledge of how to survive. He imagines that even if she was lucky enough to be taken in by an orphanage, she'd face a harsh life. Light's eyes flare with determination as he declares that this can't happen. He vows to hold back and do just enough to hurt them. Light reflects that Agunil would be too proud to let people know he was beaten by someone like him, an orphan with a failure attribute. Light adds that even if he ends up being hunted, he can escape from Agunil alone. Yami rests peacefully in Light's arms. Light gently takes Yami's hand, holding it with care. His eyes reflect reflecting concern as looks at her with a soft gaze. Light speaks softly, saying, "But, Yami." He reassures her, adding, "Don't worry." Light promises, with a gentle tone, that he won't leave her alone. Yami continues to sleep, unaware of Light's words, as he watches over her. In a lively town with timber-framed buildings, the scene unfolds under a bright sky. Kuts insists that this is the last time. With a commanding tone, he orders them to let him withdraw his money, asking if they even know who he is. Behind the counter, a bespectacled woman glances at him with unease. She says she doesn't recall everyone's faces. Explaining softly, the woman adds that their identification tag serves that purpose. He declares that his tag burned during a quest. Calmly, a woman behind the counter directs him to fill out the form with the details in that case. In a rage, he shouts that he doesn't have a single coin to his name right now. With frustration, he proclaims that they should see he's the esteemed priest of the Silverwool party. Unfazed, the woman remarks that she can see he's a suspicious pervert. Indignantly, he demands that if they look at the holy scripture, they'll see the truth. Frustrated, she grumbles that this is ridiculous and questions if she should report him now. Urging sternly, Kuts tells her to think harder, and to recall that 4 days ago, he was here with the great sage Agunil. The woman pauses, processing the information silently. Realizing suddenly, she suggests that now he mentions it, he did introduce someone. The woman exclaims that it's Light. He confirms loudly that that's him, the priest. Bluntly, the woman admits she doesn't recall anything about him, though. Recalling suddenly, the woman states that she does remember Light. He confirms that it makes sense since he's vouched for by the guild. Firmly, the woman explains that if Light vouches for him, they can proceed. Clenching his fist, he reacts silently to the news. In a grave tone, he declares that Light is dead. In the background, others discuss the situation quietly. Shocked, the woman asks what he's talking about. He exclaims that Light is dead, torn apart by the Lich King. Stunned, the woman stares at him silently. Handing over a form, he tells him to give it to him. Filling it out quickly, he states that it's done, and tells he will come back later. In shock, the woman calls out for him to wait. Questioning loudly, she asks if he's serious about Light's death. In shock, she questions if Light is really dead. Stunned, Agunil outside asks what he said. Demanding loudly, he exclaims that they couldn't withdraw the money. Kuts explains that all 3 of their identification tags were burned. He states that he's already submitted the reissuance applications, but it'll take a few days, suggesting firmly to just return to the capital directly. Boasting loudly, he claims to be the great sage Agunil and questions if they know. Fuming, she admits they're also embarrassed by their state. Noting quietly, Kuts remarks that things would be different if Light was around. He exclaims that it's Light. In confusion, he asks what he means. Kuts explains that the guild trusted Light, and if he vouched for them. Questioning sharply, Agunil asks if he mentioned his name. He confirms that yes, he did. Reflecting solemnly that Light's name carries more weight than theirs in the guild. Clenching his fist, Agunil questions that his name carries more weight than theirs. In anger, he calls Light a worthless low-rank trash. Fuming, he retorts how dare they insult him with someone with a failure attribute. Saya hesitates, unsure of what to say. He suggests they go sell the horse. Kuts remarks that at this hour, the market is closed, so the sale won't fetch a high price. Shrugging off the concern, Agunil states that as long as they can stay at a cheap inn or buy something, he doesn't care. Determined, he states that once he cleans himself up and walks into the guild, their attitudes will change. Threatening boldly, he adds that if they don't, he'll make them change by force. Kuts remains silent, watching with a stern expression. A bird soars across a bright sky, trailing a gentle arc. Light points out the view ahead to Yami as they stand together on a hill overlooking a vibrant town. Smiling warmly, he says to look, Yami. Pointing ahead, Light tells Yami that's his town up ahead. Walking together, Agunil, Saya, and Kuts stride into the town. Approaching the city, Light and Yami walk toward the grand gates. Excitedly, Light exclaims that he can see the familiar gates ahead. He notes that it hasn't even been a week since he left the city. Recalling his journey, Light states that he's been through more than he ever could have imagined. He declares that he's evolved his so-called failure light magic. Reflecting on his growth, turning to Yami, he says they're about to enter the city, and there will be many people promising they'll enjoy good food in a warm bed. Yami reflects warmly, holding his hand gently. He recalls that he had nothing before. Looking at Yami with determination, Light declares that now he has someone he wishes to protect. A guard, noticing Light, asks with surprise if that's him. Another guard echoes the question. Walking hand in hand with Yami, Light notices something and exclaims with a surprised "Oh." Addressing the guards, he thanks Eric and Karen for their hard work, while a guard, surprised, exclaims that Light is alive. Light responds casually, saying that, as they can see, he's fine. The guard acknowledges that it's great to see him. Another guard urges Light to hurry to the guild. Light reacts in confusion. A group of people gather around around a memorial setup, with Light's picture, flowers, and a cup, indicating a ceremony. At the same time, a priest conducts a ritual with 2 women. Melissa looks devastated by it. The woman says to Melissa that they need to start soon. Melissa reflects that Light had no family to rely on, suggesting they hold a funeral for him. Melissa, visibly emotional, responds with a hesitant ah, tears welling up in her eyes. She breaks down, crying loudly, saying it's all because she recommended him. Melissa, overcome with grief, cries out that Light didn't have to die because of that request. She continues, sobbing, calling Light weak and a useless fool, blaming herself for his supposed fate. The priest and others in the room look on, continuing the ceremony. Looking concerned, Light notes that he was told to come to the guild quickly but wonders if it's a bad-mouthing contest. Inside the guild, the group is shocked as they turn to see Light standing there. Melissa, still in tears, looks up in disbelief, and exclaims Light's name as she runs to hug him. Light, sitting at a table with Yami and others, discusses if the naked guy gave them that news. Melissa continues, explaining that a naked guy claimed he was a member of the Silver Wing and if he's lying. Calmly, Light says he just got separated from his party, and that's all. Growing more agitated, she insists that explaining everything now won't help and curses the pervert. Light asks if she knows a good tool shop in the city and she asks if there's something he needs. Clarifying, he says that he doesn't need anything but has something to sell, monster drop items, and isn't sure where to go. Melissa, intrigued, asks Light if he managed to get drop items. Light, smiling casually, says he got lucky and promises to explain everything later. Yami, sipping her drink, letting out a small foo. Melissa, concerned, asks Yami if getting lost in the forest must have been tough for her. Light, smiling gently, responds with a simple yeah, apologizing to Melissa for lying about Yami, explaining that it's hard to talk about her. Melissa adds that there are several tool shops in the city and asks if he wants the highest paying one. Considering Light's needs, another guild member suggests a shop in the back alley. Melissa agrees, noting that while the shopkeeper is a bit unusual, they'll pay more than others depending on the item, and adds to not mind the way the store looks. Light looks visibly confused. Later, as they walk through the city, Light looks at a map and tells Yami that they'll be able to eat lots of food soon. Yami responds with a soft acknowledgement. As they continue, Light notes that the alley is getting narrower and darker. He adds that they have to turn here, following the map, and looks surprised seeing the looks of the store. Light, standing with Yami in front of a creepy-looking shop, admits that he's getting nothing but bad vibes from it. Alchemy for All, Fairy King shop. Seeing the haunted look of the shop, Light feels otherworldly vibe. He remembers the words of Melissa saying to not worry about store's appearance, and the guild members seem to know about it too. Also, he is in need of money, so, to make money, he plans to enter the store. Light hesitates outside the eerie shop, muttering an excuse to himself. A mysterious figure in a hooded cloak, holding a staff and surrounded by a mystical aura, calls out to Light, asking how long he's going to stand there gawking and urging him to get in already. Light, startled, wonders if he was being watched. He enters the store and begins looking around the dimly lit interior filled with shelves of potions and strange items. Notes that it's shady looking but the items on display seem normal enough. Light is confused about the gender while the shopkeeper asks if he is here to sell. Light, startled, confirms with a hesitant yes, saying he'd like to start with larger quantity items. Unsure of what will sell, the shopkeeper, examining a pile of items, decides to test, picking up a container to inspect. Light and Yami watch nervously as the shopkeeper begins the evaluation. Light shows the core and bones from a greater phantom and a magic ghoul, asking Light if he could buy 10 of each. The shopkeeper, surprised, exclaims in shock at the request and tells it must be fake. Clearing the doubts, he says it's real and got from Lich King's resting place. The shopkeeper questions if he actually defeated the Lich King, and asks his attribute, thinking he must have considerable power. Hesitantly, Light says it's light. The shopkeeper begins to laugh, saying that this is priceless, and that's the best joke he's heard all day. Light wonders that everyone keeps mocking light magic. Now serious, the shopkeeper says defeating the Lich and chances of returning are slim to none. Agreeing, Light says he's well informed. With a sly smile, he lets out a small laugh, saying it's a well-known story in these parts and lies won't work here, adding that the proper appraisal will reveal whether these are fake or real. Light tells him that he went along with an A-rank party to a quest and defeated Lich. Skeptical, the shopkeeper questions why an A-rank party would even bring a light attribute user. Smiling confidently, he explains that he was brought along as a mana tank. The shopkeeper, surprised, questions if Light is really Light, asking if he's the parasite adventurer. Light thinks of just focusing on the deal. The shopkeeper has one last question, asking if he has the Lich's staff or robe. Yami looks at the shopkeeper's skull accessory, glows ominously, hinting at her intense interest. The shopkeeper shouts as she holds the skull, and tells her to not touch things without permission. Then, the shopkeeper notices the cloth Yami is wearing, and holds her cloak, hinting at something. Light says that it's the material from the Lich's King lair that he turned into a robe. The shopkeeper, intrigued but skeptical, remains silent for a moment, then adds adds that he'll appraise the drop items and just give him a moment, and asks about the robe. The Lich's staff functions as a magic emitter and robe serves as an amplifier. The shopkeeper then puts down the gold coins and tells that he is giving bonus with 11 gold coins. Surprised, Light questions what this is. The shopkeeper then tells that good items deserve a proper price and that's their motto. Light thanks him and the shopkeeper warns him to be careful of pickpockets. With delight, Light exclaims that they can eat something delicious now. The shopkeeper calls out for Light and asks if he has other Lich drop items. Light tells he don't and leaves, while the shopkeeper just looks as they leave and mutters come on, making a vow to not let that Light attribute user off. In a bustling street food market, Light and Yami walk through. Light, holding a box of 11 gold coins, is in disbelief, saying he's never had this much money in his life, especially since it's only from selling a fraction of the drop items. He notes that his bag is still packed and heavy with more items. Turning to Yami, he asks what she wants to eat. Yami, surprised, repeats the word eat and then food, her eyes sparkling as she looks at the food stalls, clearly excited. Yami, still in awe, looks at the variety of food like donuts and burgers, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Light, equally excited, declares they'll eat everything since they've got money to spare. Feeling the excitement, she repeats money. Both Light and Yami, holding hands, enthusiastically dive into their food adventure, telling food binge across the entire street, starting with meat crepes and grilled skewers, their faces lighting up with joy. Next up, a mountain of crispy wheat crackers. Light and Yami continue their food binge, happily eating. They sit down, with Light noting that it's incredible how good the food is, and that they've eaten so much without even spending a whole silver coin. He comments that he's glad Melissa recommended such a great store, even if the owner was a little sketchy. Remembering the time back at the shop, when the shopkeeper asks Light if he has any other Lich drop items, he now confirms that he does, and he got the Lich King's core, its grimoire, its ashes, dagger, and some leftover cloth from Yami's robe. Yami, sitting at a table, looks surprised. Light, noticing her expression, asks what's wrong. Yami, distracted by the smell of food, points out, her eyes sparkling with excitement, and comments that it smells good. Light, laughing softly, suggests they start round 2 of their food binge, encouraging Yami to join him as they continue their adventure in the street food market. At the guild, Melissa asks them to fill out a form for reissuing an ID, which will take a week and cost 1 gold coin. Agunil, with a stern expression, reluctantly agrees, saying they'll take a quest to earn the money, but Melissa informs them it's not possible. Agunil questions what. She replies that they need an ID to take quests, and tells to leave, making Agunil shocked and confused. Visibly frustrated, he declares that he is registered with the royal capital's magic tower and identifies as Agunil, the great sage and leader of Silver Will. Melissa calmly points out that they heard that story last time as well. Kuts just says yes in response. Agunil asks if Melissa remembers when he came personally a week ago, while Melissa responds with a question, whereas Light Hamilton, who accompanied them a week ago. He reveals the shocking news that Light Hamilton is dead. With a stern expression, Melissa looks at him, while other guild members look at him with mocking faces. Getting angry, Agunil questions what that was. Giving warning, Melissa says filing a false report is punishable by law. Agunil, furious, snaps back, demanding Melissa watch her tone, and grabs her by her hand, telling he is not lying and Light is dead. Melissa tells Agunil to let go of her. Someone asks who is dead from behind. Saya and Kuts shocked as Agunil, clearly shaken by the revelation about Light. Everyone is relieved after seeing that, and so is Melissa. While Saya and Kuts are shocked, Agunil turns his head around to see who was calling him, and shocked as well. Light, standing nearby, reveals himself with a dramatic declaration, "I've returned from the grave," shocking Agunil even more and making him angry at the same time. Saya just goes on to grab Agunil's hand. Sweating and panicked, Agunil questions why Light is alive, recalling that he left Light in the boss room, believing there was no way he could have survived. Kuts tries to calm Agunil, warning him not to say more, while he adds that if it's revealed he deliberately used a guild-hired member as bait, it would be considered a serious crime. Frustrated, Agunil tries to calm himself. Light questions what's wrong and asks if they have anything to say. Looking at Yami, he says he will hear it out with his partner, shocking him even more now. Yami, standing nearby with Light and holding a small gift box, looks at the group, while Saya curiously asks, "Who's that tiny one?" referring to Yami. Yami responds by saying, "Souvenir," handing the gift to Melissa, who gratefully accepts it, saying, "Thank you, Yami." Agunil, still shaken, laughs nervously, and acknowledges Light's survival, noting that Light could have made it through with an endless magic power supply. He says it worked well for him, and refers to Light as his mana tank. Light, with a determined expression, declares that he'll live for Yami, protect her, and be by her side, vowing to spare Agunil's life. Agunil says to return that child. Agunil, realizing the situation, mutters, she's starting to reclaim her humanity back. Observing Yami's transformation, Yami, standing beside Light, looks concerned, as Agunil says, tools don't need humanity, revealing a deeper conflict about her her identity and purpose. Hearing that, Light, surrounded by a powerful aura, looks determined. As two onlookers in the background feel the ground shake, one asking, "What's that?" and the other wondering if it's an earthquake. Light, concerned, tells Melissa to take care of Yami. She asks Yami to come behind the counter for safety, while Yami looks confused. Kuts looks confused too. Melissa tells Yami to stay there, while Light stares at Agunil. Agunil laughs and says, "What's going on? Bluffing won't work on me," trying to dismiss the intense atmosphere and Light's display of power. Light, radiating a powerful aura with blue energy swirling around him, confronts Agunil and the others, who are visibly shaken by his presence. Kuts, sweating and nervous, mutters, "Agunil, this is," as he struggles to process the situation. Agunil then shouts at Light, calling him a trash Light attribute and questioning what he can even do. Light, unfazed, responds, "Too bad for you. I'm no longer a simple Light attribute," and, his eyes glowing with intensity as he prepares to unleash his true power. Melissa and Yami, watching from behind a counter. Light, surrounded by a radiant aura, charges at Agunil with a massive energy beam, shouting, "Laser," as Agunil and the others brace themselves for the impact. Light, surrounded by a radiant aura, charges at Agunil with a massive energy beam, shouting, "Laser," as Agunil and the others brace themselves for the impact. Light's energy beam hits, causing a massive explosion that shakes the surroundings. Onlookers, including Melissa, are in shock. Agunil grabs his head as Light attacks him, engulfing him with fear and confusion. For the damage to his head and hair, he questions what Light did. Everyone burst into laughter. Shaken by the outcome, Saya shouts no, crying out Sir Agunil's head. His head. Light, standing amidst the chaos, coughs and mutters, "Did I miss?" Agunil, heavily injured and furious, yells at Light. Saya calls him an idiot, saying he should have let the Lich King eat him quietly, revealing past events. Enraged, she screams, "Idiot, just die, you trash," while Light notes that Saya shows no sign of remorse. Light asks Agunil to apologize to Yami and him. Agunil, still defiant, questions why he should apologize to Light and Yami, calling them trash and scum and saying they should be grateful he made use of them. Looking at Agunil with cold determination, he responds, "Agunil, you have no remorse at all." Kuts says he suggested offering prayers for Light's sake, but Light angrily retorts, "Nobody asked you, creep." Light, surrounded by a glowing aura, points at Agunil and says, "Maybe he'll be honest after the next hit," contemplating his next move. Kuts, desperate, says, "Sir Agunil, raise a barrier." As Agunil notes, it's just light magic, even with increased offensive power, underestimating Light's attack. Agunil, however, mocks, telling, "There's no way it'll break the barrier of an A-rank party with a magic defense of 15,000, showing confidence in his defense. The barrier is hit by Light's attack, causing Agunil and his party to scream as they get caught in the fire. Light, observing the chaos, calmly states that his laser's power is 100,000, while Melissa, watching in disbelief, mutters, "Light." Agunil, now on the ground and heavily injured, begins to run away. Light grabs his head and shoves his head into the ground. Glaring at Light, Agunil asks if he even knows who he's up against, still defiant despite his defeat. Light, with a determined expression, says of course, someone who doesn't even see people as people and tramples on others and mocks them. "That's why you are the absolute worst kind of human being in history," condemning Agunil's actions. Light then unleashes another powerful attack, punching Agunil. Saya watches it in tears. Furious, Light tells Agunil to not run, cursing him, "Until you're next, you perverted creep." In desperation, Melissa throws water at Light, asking him to listen to her, calming him for a bit. Melissa shouts, "Everyone, please help me," to the others around her to restrain those three. The onlookers respond with, "Got it," restraining three of the party members, Saya, Kuts, and Agunil. One of them, struggling, yells, "Stay quiet, damn it," as he's being restrained, while the other tells Agunil to walk already. Light, looking at the scene, shows his frustration and desire for justice. Yami responds with a simple, "Are you okay?" checking on Light after the intense confrontation. Looking at her, he says it's over now, and all that's left is to let the law handle them. Grabbing the hand of Light, Melissa says that includes him too, and the others restrain him as well while he questions why me. 5 days after the intense battle, Light, looking exhausted, says he is exhausted as he slumps over a table. Yami, sitting beside him, notices his fatigue and says he looks tired, and then Light asks, "Yami, have you gained some weight?" Hearing that, Yami hits his head and tells him to be careful with his words. Reflecting on the recent events, Light adds, "Melissa didn't have to do so much for me, but still, when he ran into Agunil and the others, he fired those 2 lasers with no hesitation, leaving 2 large holes in the building. Naturally, he was harshly reprimanded by the guards." Light had to apologize, feeling guilty for the damage caused, and explains that he has written so many reports and other paperwork, leaving his right hand throbbing. Considering what Agunil and the others did, he ended up being released, and reveals that the compensation for the 2 large holes amounted to 38 gold coins. Light concludes, "Well, thanks to those dropped loot, I was able to pay for it while still keeping some on me." Holding a plate, Melissa offers Light some food to help him recover, mentioning how hectic the day had been. Light thanks Melissa for looking after Yami, while she responds saying that there was no need to thank her even though her guardian committed a crime. Handing some documents, Melissa explains that she is there because of Yami and to submit the documents later. He then asks about Yami's guardian, to which Melissa responds by asking that Light had found and helped Yami during a quest. She says she had searched through the missing people register but couldn't find anything about Yami in that area. He admits that he hadn't told Melissa the truth about Yami. Melissa then shares that she had also checked the slave registry to be sure, but found nothing there either, noting that slaves are considered luxury goods. She explains that slaves had to be officially registered with a tax paid on them, making black market trades more common, adding that people like Father Kuts were involved in such activities, meaning that, according to official documentation, Yami didn't exist in that world. Light tries to grasp the information as he hears them, denying the suggestion of Melissa to leave her at the orphanage. Light says it's not an option. Melissa laughs softly and reassures him that everything is okay. She tells Yami likes him a lot, noting that Yami often looks out the window every day in the direction where Light has been taken, except during mealtimes. Yami is always there, staring in that direction. Light, surprised, calls out to Yami, who hums in response while eating. Light offers Yami another piece of food, saying that she can eat that one too. Melissa explains that she is thinking about doing something different for Yami. She proposes that since Yami is a refugee they have found and rescued, they will register Light as her guardian. Light, taken aback by the suggestion, looks surprised. She explains that it will require a lot of money and that Light will be responsible for looking after Yami, reflecting on the moment when he feels the most hopeless. Recalling how Yami gives him power and helps him during that time, he realizes that it is the first time a person with nothing makes him feel like he wants to protect something. Light asks Yami if she would like to go on adventures with him. Yami excitedly agrees with a cheerful yeah. Hearing that, Light confirms that it is settled. Melissa hands Yami an identification tag, telling her that it is hers. She looks delighted with it, noting that Yami's attribute is darkness. He thinks it is even more misunderstood than Light. He then suggests to Yami that they go and grow together, assuring that no matter what kind of adventure it is, they can handle it together. A few months pass, and at a grand, towering structure, Agunil asks if Light thinks he will forgive him. He tells Light to wait for him, holding a glowing red orb, calling out to Light and Yami, indicating that something significant is about to happen. Light expresses confusion with a thoughtful hum. Melissa confirms, noting that he is quickly accumulating accomplishments, informing him that he is now a C-rank adventurer. Light admits that when it comes to requests, he has nothing but bad memories, including that time as well. A request from the A-rank party Silver Will. He wonders if it could be that Agunil is involved. Melissa clarifies that this is not an independent request but rather a request from a trading company, adding that with Light's new Ray attribute, he is doing a lot of quests and that he is now a highly skilled adventurer. She also mentions that it is not surprising for the request to come from a trading company. Light reflects that if it's the current him, even if something goes wrong, he will be able to handle it. He asks if the difficulty is B rank in assuring Light. She says with Yami, even a B rank request won't be a problem. Yami cheerfully agrees that it's okay. Light decides that he will accept the request then, while Melissa thanks Light for his continued patronage. The quest details reveal that it is a B rank difficulty task involving a large trading company's escort. The sound of crickets chirping around them as an escort group with wagons traveling through a mountainous area at night. Light and Yami stand together as part of it. Light remarks that there is nothing for them to do yet, noting that it is a B rank difficulty after all. He asks Yami if she is tired. Seeing Yami denies that, Light responds that as expected from an adventurer, she is ready, proudly declaring that she is an adventurer. A member of the group announces that everyone will set up camp a little further up the road. Light tells Yami that they made it and now they will be able to eat. Then, everyone set up the camp. While sitting by the campfire, Light asks Yami if she likes the food. Yami happily confirms that she likes it. Someone comments on what an appetite Yami has, calling her a little girl. The commander of the group approaches, noting that the rumors are true about Light, the extraordinary laser user known as the magician who brings his child along with him. Light clarifies that Yami is not his real daughter but a child he helped during a quest. The commander, curious, asks if that is so, then asks if Light would mind talking a bit, to which Light agrees. The commander notes that people around here don't know Light other than by hearsay, so he thought it would be good to have a little chat since they will be working together. Light acknowledges this with a simple ah. Curious, the commander asks Light to explain what led him to hone his light magic so much. Light recalls that when he had his attribute revealed, a priest told him he wouldn't be able to become an adventurer, and admits he was distraught for a while but decided not to give up on his dream just because because of his attribute, remarking that the commander says it's a good thing Light didn't give up. He adds that Light succeeded in changing to the Ray attribute, while Light confirms. The commander then asks about Yami's role, noting her big appetite. Light explains that Yami is a magician too, and Yami cheerfully confirms this. Intrigued, the commander asks what her attribute really is. Yami excitedly reveals that her attribute is darkness. Surprised, the commander repeats darkness, noting that it's the first time he's seen an adventurer with the darkness attribute, and the same goes for the light attribute, explaining that in this world, people with darkness and light attributes are considered worthless to be kept alive. The commander asks what spells the darkness attribute can cast, to which Light admits that even he doesn't know. He explains that they are a party. Yami has been through a lot, but he doesn't see any problem with her using magic if she wants to, as he wants her to do what she wishes. Commander, curious, asks if that's so, then remarks that if the rumors about Light's laser are true, he doesn't think Light will need any help either. Light confirms that this is true. The commander expresses that he's hoping for the same but hasn't seen it yet, adding that a lot of folks are having doubts about it too. He then informs the group that they've already taken up enough of their time and should rest well, mentioning that the guards are doing their rounds so they can sleep soundly, urging the guards to stay sharp, and a guard responds with a firm yes. Light, holding a piece of paper, quietly notes to himself that they are having doubts. A guard remarks to Light that even with so many accomplishments, people will always think poorly of someone with the light attribute. The guard reveals that he was one of the people who saw Light's laser in the guild, adding that it's pretty amazing and that they know they can rely on him. Light, slightly embarrassed, as the guard bids farewell with a well, bye. Light, with a small smile, chuckles to himself, saying he. Later, as Light and Yami rest, a guard notes that it's very cold in the evening, as expected. The guard suddenly looks alert, murmuring him, as a sense of unease sets in. The scene shifts dramatically to a dark, ominous atmosphere hinting at an impending threat. A guard, visibly panicked, shouts "WH what? Ah!" as a horde of shadowy creatures with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness. The guard realizes they've been surrounded. A massive, menacing creature with sharp teeth and a sinister grin looms over the camp. The guard identifies the threat, yelling, "It is a herd of ogres." Chaos erupts as the camp is attacked, with shouts echoing through the night. Light, startled awake, looks around in alarm. He quickly turns to Yami, urgently calling out, "Yami, wake up," while trying to rouse her from sleep. Yami, groggy and confused, mumbles in response. Noticing her exhaustion, he wonders, is she tired from walking so much yesterday? As he prepares to leave, he gently but firmly instructs her, "Just stay here and don't move, I beg you, Yami." Then, he prepares to face the threat. Light then notices something horrifying. Been among those who witnessed Light's laser at the guild. The battle breaks out. Noting the ogres were aiming at a light source, the commander tells everything is pitch black. He struggles to fight in the darkness, and so does everyone in the group. Recalling the conversation with the guard, Light expresses regret for not being able to protect him, but assures that their attackers would be avenged. Taking charge, he instructs everyone to close their eyes as he prepares to take action, declaring his firm resolve to eliminate the enemies entirely. With a commanding shout, he cast Meteor Shower, unleashing a brilliant beam of light into the sky that illuminated the battlefield, and rained down on the ogres below. Guards shield their eyes from the intense light, and express amazement at the display, and notes that it feels as though it is noon due to the brilliance of the light. Light, now standing, channels his own magic, and tells to take his attack. Focusing his energy, he unleashes a laser, sending a powerful beam of energy toward the ogres. The beam strikes the ogres, causing them to scream in agony as the attack overwhelms them. A guard watches his display of power and says it's real. Charging at him, the ogres prepare to attack. Light attacks them, shouting they suck, overwhelming them with ease and defeating all of them. The commander, looking on with a smirk, lets out a quiet chuckle, seemingly impressed. The commander says to launch a counter-attack and to strike too. Everyone begins to battle, engaging in combat with an ogre. Using his magic power, Light keeps on attacking, pointing his finger. A guard is struggling as the creature attempts to overpower them. Light, noticing the danger, curses in frustration, realizing that the ogres might break through to the other soldiers. He declares that if the battle becomes too chaotic, he won't be able to aim properly. Light, determined to adjust his strategy, explains that he needs to aim from below to avoid hitting allies. He focuses his energy, preparing to unleash another attack. Light releases a powerful beam of energy, shouting as he directs it toward the ogres. The beam surges forward, illuminating the battlefield with its intense light. Light explains that the only way he can fire his attack properly is by aiming it upward toward the sky, admitting that this method allows him to take down only one enemy per hit. He laughs nervously, noting that this approach is not only inefficient and exhausting but also requires him to limit the blast's power, revealing that even at its minimum power, the laser's strength is 100,000. An ogre attacks him, and gets caught in the attack as the energy overwhelms it. Yami, unleashing her own powerful laser, adds to the assault, intensifying the attack on the ogres. Light, panting heavily, acknowledges that the laser is strong, too strong. In fact, he wonders aloud what he should do, feeling the strain of the battle. Light reflects on how he never imagined that his laser would be so ineffective in the chaotic battlefield. The commander, concerned, asks Light what happened and if he got hurt during the battle. Light reassures the commander that he is alright. The commander advises Light to stay alert, noting that the situation feels rather strange, explaining that intelligent ogres are extremely rare, yet these ones specifically target the light sources in the camp, and adds that the ogres are working as a coordinated unit, which suggests something unusual. The commander concludes that there is probably a named ogre leading them. Light, shocked, realizes it. He exclaims that such a challenge is impossible for their current situation. The commander and Light stand together, observing the battlefield with concern. A massive ogre, towering over the scene, lets out a ferocious roar. Light, startled, questions what is happening with this ogre who is over 5 meters. The commander identifies the ogre as the Valley Keeper. Shocked, he wonders how such a powerful creature appears during a B-rank difficulty quest. Staring at the group menacingly, the ogre roars slightly. Light prepares to attack, reasoning that the larger the target, the easier it is to hit. He unleashes a powerful beam of energy toward the ogre. Something strange happens. The ogre, moving on all fours, charges straight toward Light with terrifying speed. Light, realizing the danger, panics and exclaims that it's coming straight at him. He comments that he cannot shoot at that height without risking an accidental hit on his allies. Watching the massive ogre charge toward him, he wonders if it is trying to get rid of him. He tells the commander that he is going to take it down, while the commander suggests taking some members with him. Denying his request, he says it will be hard for him to fight with others present. The commander questions if he is serious. He lures the ogre away, successfully putting some distance between the creature and the camp. Light realizes that the ogre is chasing him and decides that it's time to act. The ogre lets out a fierce roar, its strength evident as it uproots and hurls trees at Light. Light, dodging the incoming trees, marvels at the ogre's tremendous power, and then he prepares to launch his attack. The ogre picks up the trees, and prepares to throw them at him all at once. Surprised with the ogre's action, Light exclaims to wait, commenting it's a tree tsunami. Launching an attack, Light shouts, "Take this," as he points his finger, destroying the trees launched at him, one after another, and he questions himself, asking where the ogre is. Suddenly, the ogre stands behind him. He swiftly turns around, noticing its presence, and channels his magic power once again. The ogre evades his attack, completely dodging it. Noticing that, Light curses at him as he prepares to launch an attack once more, commenting that if the object evade the fixed spot, the damage will be 0, and all enemies he faced so far died before finding it out, but the ogre figured it out. Sweating, he comments if the ogre is planning to stay away until he reaches his limit, and praises his fighting instinct despite the ogre being so big. He thinks it was as expected that it wasn't as expected, and declares that regardless of his low estimate, he is still an AA rank. Panting, he admits that the meteor shower will disappear soon. Clenching his fist, Light channels his magical power, noting that his power is probably at its limit. The ogre stares at him menacingly. He then prepares to fire, seeing no choice for him, with the laser that the ogre hasn't seen yet. Light declares that he needs to show ogre a laser he hasn't seen yet, panting heavily as he prepares for his first battle using this technique. A glowing orb forms in his hand as he channels his energy. Light aims directly at ogre, explaining that after using the meteor shower and running around the battlefield, he has almost exhausted his magical power, so by using this technique, he will probably end up absolutely depleted. Stating his resolve, he claims that whether it's the first time or not doesn't matter now. Ogre grips his weapon tightly as he prepares to counterattack. Light realizes that if he doesn't act, only death awaits him. Dodging swiftly, Light narrowly avoids ogre's powerful strike. Ogre's energy surges as he unleashes a barrage of attacks. Light braces himself while facing the overwhelming assault. Swearing under his breath, Light curses as he dodges ogre's attack. Light realizes that he cannot afford to make any mistakes, and even for a moment, he must stop the consecutive attacks. Pointing at a rock, he begins to run away. The ogre looks at him as he runs, and laughs, seeing him flee. Then he launches his strike to attack Light. Light somehow manages to evade the attack, completely making his attack useless. He shouts that he knew ogre would use his monstrous strength to hit the rock in his way. Furious, ogre stares at him. Light focuses intently as he searches for the perfect time to strike, launching an attack once more, pointing his finger. Ogre grunts in frustration while continuing his assault and evading the attacks. Unleashing a glowing energy blast, Light aims directly at ogre. He says victory is mine. Ogre roars in pain as the attack hits him, and stumbles as the attack hits him directly. Light pants heavily while maintaining maintaining his focus on the battle. Celebrating his success, Light exclaims that he managed to fire a double shot, finally defeating the ogre. He pants heavily after being able to claim victory, and shouts that he is glad it all worked out well, reflecting on an idea he had before leaving this quest. He tried to work on firing with his left hand before the quest. However, controlling the magic power in a non-dominant hand was hard. All in all, the firing odds were 50-50 and the odds of hitting the target was even lower. Light reflects that it's a good thing he tried firing with his left hand beforehand, and had he knew from the start there would be a named one, he would have fought differently. Noticing the surroundings, a party member observes that the others seem to have finished their fight. After the long battle, it's already dawn. The commander asks if Light is fine. Light assures the group that he's fine but mentions the heaviness of the captured ogre. The commander instructs Light to put the ogre in the wagon as named ones have bounty on their heads, and it's likely a keeper, despite the other ogres vanishing. Then he thanks Light for his efforts. Reflecting on his title, Light recalls being called the Warrior of the Light. The commander notes that the ogres have damaged a lot of the cargo and they'll need to gather and pack the cargo up again. Announcing his intentions, Light says he's going to see Yami. Light wonders if Yami is awake now. Calling out for Yami, Light searches for her. Light looks around the area where Yami should be. Realizing she's not there, Light panics as he notices Yami's absence. Looking around in confusion, Light appears desperate. He notes that even the blanket is cold, remembering when he called out to Yami, urging her to stay where she is and not move. Light pleads with Yami to come out. Growing increasingly worried, concerned, he asks the party members if they have seen a little girl around. The party member notes that it's difficult to keep up with the battle's aftermath and hasn't seen anyone like that. He looks more worried now. The commander asks Light if something is wrong, and realizes that the little girl wasn't there. He exclaims that he was gathering dead people's ID tags and taking a look. Light begins searching for her in hurry even before commander finishes talking, calling for Yami and urging her to answer him. The commander then tells everyone to prepare for departure while he decides to go with Light. Light begins running around begging for Yami to come out, admitting that he wouldn't have brought Yami if he knew this would happen. Light expresses his guilt for bringing Yami on the quest and putting her in danger. He recalls the time when he left her few times in lodge, and during those times, she'd just curl up in the corner of the room. Seeing her face made him realize the face of someone who thought the way he used to be. The commander calls out for Light. Light turns around and finds her robe lying on the ground. Holding the robe, the commander notes what it is doing in a place far from camp, and notes that there are no blood traces but only orc footprints. Light trembles as he sees the orc footprints, remembering her face, thinking she was kidnapped. He breaks down thinking about it. The commander tries to uplift Light, telling him they can follow west from here and reach the orcs' den. Noting that the orcs preserve their prey first, Light decides to go to rescue Yami, shocking the commander. He tells him that he is going to the orcs' den. The commander tries to calm Light, and says doing that will break the contract. Light refuses, insisting that he's going to find Yami and hand him some money, telling him to take the advance payment and return it to them. Calling out Light, the commander says, "Hey." Light turns back and tells him Yami is his partner. Handing over a potion, the commander urges him to take it since he's alone. Light looks confused while the commander throws a magic potion at him, and realizes as he catches it. He says thanks while addressing the commander. Drinking the magic potion, Light thinks that it helped him restore some of his magical power. He runs all while asking Yami to wait for him, remembering her awkward smile. Noticing a deep darkness, he senses something in the bottom of her eyes that he's used to seeing. The same look when he looks in the mirror, being ditched by the world and with no reason to stay alive. He reflects that she and him have both been through loneliness and despair, who has been through the same things as him and understands pain. Vowing to save her at any cost, declaring his determination, Light shouts that he won't be able to go on living without her. Light feels something strange as the report mentions the west. Looking around, he senses something. He senses the scent of dead bodies, while noticing human bones and rotting flesh. Wondering about the situation, Light questions if the orcs have scattered the bodies of the dead. Light realizes that Yami is not among the bodies. Light panics, thinking that even if Yami is not among them, he won't forgive it, and asks for forgiveness for not being able to bury them. Resolving to make up for his mistake, Light declares that he's going to destroy all the orcs, while noting that their flesh, bones, and blood are showing the way. Light urges Yami to wait for him, and shouts that he's on his way while rushing forward. Noticing the ominous surroundings, Light realizes that this is the place where the dead bodies are. While questioning if this is the orc's lair, an orc comes out from the den. Light watches him hiding behind the rock. An orc with glowing eyes begins to throw away all the bones. Seeing it, Light comments that it threw something away. Slowly, he begins to walk towards the place where the orc threw bones. Light discovers human body parts, including a soldier's arm, while feeling a chill run down his spine. Light panics, wondering if orcs have already eaten Yami. Remembering her face, Light tries to convince himself not to think silly things, and Yami is still alive and he is going to save her. As he prepares to enter the den, he swears to save her. He notes that there's a light deep inside outside the den, then walks inside the cave cautiously, muttering to himself. Light says he doesn't have time but he can't make a noise and get found. Light notes that one bottle of mana potion isn't enough to restore much of his magical power, stating that he must conserve as much as possible. Light surveys the cave, noticing several orcs gathered around a fire with menacing expressions. A person pleads for someone to save him. As the orc charges at him, Light watches the scene hiding and closes his eyes seeing it, and curses at it. Light questions where the other people are, the ones that are alive, and notices a bunch of people held captives by the orcs. Light realizes that he has to get through the orcs to reach there, casting a light magic spell, Stealth, creating a subtle glow around him in the cave. He becomes invisible, explaining his strategy. Light notes that Stealth is a skill that distorts the light around him but doesn't make him invisible, while hoping not to get caught. Sneaking through the cave, Light avoids detection, while the orcs remain unaware of his presence. An orc grunts in confusion while looking around the cave. Light panics, realizing that the orcs might catch his scent while hiding in the shadows, and wonders what he should do now, or should he run. As the orc looks at him directly, he thinks running will make them attack him immediately. Another orc calls for him, while gesturing to its companion, showing meat. The orc then decides to leave from there, and walk towards another way. Light calms down with a sigh of relief. The captives in the cave whisper that the next one to be eaten is him. Another captive says that sooner or later, they're going to meet the same end and no one will help them. Light tells them that he will be able to help them if they don't make any noise. Hearing that, everyone gets confused. Light signals Stealth disabled, making him visible to them. One of the captives exclaims that he is the one with that light magic, signaling to not make noise. Light asks if they have seen white-haired girl. The captive explains that there was no one like that when they were captured and dumped here. While Light is cutting the rope, the captive mentions another cave. Hearing another cave, Light questions if there's another cave. A captive confirms that it's at the right and tells the orcs start eating the little girls. Light urges the captives to cut the rest of the ropes and not to leave until the signal. A captive shouts that there's one more cave in the right direction. Deciding not to use Stealth again as he will run out of magical power to escape, he declares that it's all or nothing while charging forward with resolve, hoping that she's still alive. Light pleads that he is begging them while running amidst the orcs. An orc looks confused while Light approaches stealthily. He realizes that there is no one here while searching the cave, but an orc with glowing eyes looms behind him in the cave. Light realizes that there is no one here in the cave, but an orc with sharp teeth looms behind him. The orc charges at Light while roaring menacingly with its sharp teeth. Light panics, realizing that this is bad and he won't be able to use his laser on time. He calls out to Yami while looking worried, recalling his memories with Yami, her smile, having food together, and all the moments with her. He apologizes to Yami while expressing his regret, and admits that he is really sorry for not saving her. Casting a spell, someone chants about dark magic while a black curtain forms around. The face of the orc gets engulfed in the dark magic. Light looks surprised while the spell takes effect in the cave. The orc collapses while being engulfed by the dark magic spell. Turning around, Light realizes the voice just now, and begins to run towards the darkness, declaring that beyond this darkness lies Yami while moving forward, reaching out his hand. Embracing Yami, Light pulls her close, and exclaims that Yami is still alive while holding her tightly, confirming again that she is still alive while feeling relieved. A captive remarks that Light is really here while looking surprised. He recognizes them as the people from the trading company. A captive notes that the little girl told them he would definitely come to save her and she was hiding them. Yami calls out to Light while smiling happily and admits that she was right while feeling joyful. Light reflects that Yami believed in him while looking at her warmly, and protected them while she waited for him. Deciding to leave, Light asks the captives if they can move. A captive says Yami removed her ropes and cut theirs too so they can move. Light notes that they need to escape with many people while planning their next step, and calls out to Yami asking what other magic she can use. He tells Yami that they should go and leave the cave. Yami hops on his back preparing to leave. Light suggests the captives to run straight for the exit after 3 seconds while the orcs chase him. Hesitating a little, the captives look at him. Light leads the captives while holding Yami close as they prepare to escape the cave. He taunts the orcs, calling them dumb, while standing protectively in front of the group. Light declares that he is here while facing the orcs with determination. Running towards the exit, the captives leave the cave, while orcs start to charge at him. Light calls out to Yami while watching the orcs approach them. Yami casts a level 1 blind spell aiming at the captives. The captives react with confusion, temporarily blinded by the spell. Seizing the moment, he prepares to attack. Against the group of orcs, Light urges Yami to hold on tight while casting a spell against the orcs, and chants about light magic while preparing to attack the orcs. The flashbang spell flashes brightly, while the orcs are caught off guard. Light describes the spell as a light of 10,000s of candelas while it burns the orcs' retinas. The orcs scream in pain while the light blinds them completely. A captive comments that he can see again. Telling them to run, Light explains that it's a light and dark dark magic combo while carrying Yami. Everyone prepares to run. While orcs remain blinded by the light, Light urges everyone to hurry toward the cave exit, and he runs behind, following them closely. Light warns that more orcs might be nearby while leading the group to escape quickly, noting that as soon as the orcs get used to the light, they will come after them, and he wishes everyone to survive too. Yami whispers to Light while holding onto him tightly, asking him about his laser. Light admits that he can't use it now as his magical power has reached its limit. When he used that flashbang earlier, Light points out the exit while leading the group toward it. The orcs chase after them while their eyes glow with rage. Light grunts an effort while running with Yami, noting they have recovered. Chasing them, the orcs pursue with glowing eyes filled with rage. Light shouts everyone to hurry. The captives turns back and notices the ogres are chasing them. Noticing the orcs, Light shouts that they split up after getting out and head to forest since he has no magic power. Suddenly, Light feels something. Yami initiates a magic transfer while glowing with energy to support him. Explaining the situation, Light says to stop it as she has no magical power left either, feeling he does not want to treat her like the way Agunil did. Yami then says they are a party, and it's normal to help her friend. Calling her his partner, Yami acknowledges. Light addresses Yami in tears while the orcs continue their pursuit in the background. He confirms that this amount of magical power is enough while thanking her. Proposing their next step, Light suggests they go back home with everyone alive. Yami looks at Light. The captives cheer that they're finally out while celebrating their freedom. Emerging from the cave, the orcs chase the group while roaring in anger. Light exclaims that this is bad while noticing the orcs chasing on them, and prepares to block the path alone. A captive questions what he is doing, and he will die if he is alone. Light declares that he's not alone while preparing to fight alongside Yami. The orcs charge forward while Light puts everything into his next move. Light unleashes his highest output while casting a powerful spell. The spell shoots toward the orcs while they brace for the impact. The captives get shocked watching it. Observing the aftermath, Light notes that it was close, and admits he was frightened but wonders if it was enough to wipe them all. Expressing gratitude, a captive calls a homage to the warrior of light. Light looks toward Yami in relief, but the orcs are still outside. Everyone looks back to see the group of orcs outside. Light warns the group that they must escape at full speed to avoid the orcs. Reflecting on his efforts, Light admits he's used up all his magical power with that last shot. He notes that she also ran out of magical power and he can't force her to use any more magical power. Light promises Yami that he's going to protect her while holding her close, assuring her that even if his body is eaten by the orcs, he will return home with Yami. The orcs charge toward the group while roaring with fury. Urging the group, Light shouts for them to run while leading the way. Yami looks at Light while they sprint away from the orcs, and she falls back to the ground due to lack of energy. Calling out to Yami, Light grabs her head to prevent her from getting hurt. Charging forward, the orc pursues Light and Yami with relentless fury. Light curses under his breath while holding Yami tightly and wonders if this is how far they'll go. While holding her close, Light expresses regret, apologizing to Yami. Arrows rain down from the sky while striking the orcs in a sudden attack. The orcs collapse while the arrows pierce them one by one. Light notices an arrow while looking around in confusion. Questioning the situation, Light wonders what's happening while the orcs fall. The attack intensifies while more arrows strike the remaining orcs. Observing the aftermath, the commander realizes it looks like they made it in time. Light looks at him with curiosity. Seeing the commander appears, the commander explains that he wasn't able to use a heavy crossbow attack earlier. Light listens while the commander continues speaking to him and asks about people at the trading company. Addressing Light, the commander says he spoke to the man in charge. The commander says that if they're going to the valley later, it'd be safer to wipe out the ogre den now, commenting that some of his soldiers had also disappeared. Noting the commander's instincts, he mentions that it's natural for a commander to save his soldiers, and adds that he is the kind of guy who is eager to return favors as soon as possible. Expressing gratitude, he thanks Light respectfully, and comments on him as a warrior of light. Light also thanks the commander. Birds caw in the sky, while a monstrous creature emerges in the distance. The sun sets over the horizon while the group prepares to head back. Light and Yami rest together while reflecting on their journey. The reason why Yami left the place during night attack was to go for toilet. She tells him that he taught him to pee where there's no one else. Hearing it, Light accepts the fact that he taught her that, and wonders that he has to be more specific with the instructions next time. That being said, he was lucky while reflecting on their escape. He adds that they even got extra money as a reward for freeing the other prisoners. Light mentions that they need to head to the church town planning their next move. The commander notes that the head of the valley keeper is heavy along with a bunch of drop items. Nodding in agreement, Light says that he needs to return to the city to sell them. Pausing for a moment, the commander asks Light to wait a little. Because of the commander's influence, he was able to sell drops to trading company right there. The groups wave goodbye while heading off with the commander's soldiers. Light wonders if it's okay to take the quest like this while they prepare to move. Yami sleeps soundly as Light smiles looking at her, and points out that as long as she doesn't get kidnapped, he's fine with the quest. A distant tower looms while Light reflects on their next challenge. A surge of energy crackles. While Agunil watches Light from the distant, commenting on ray magic, he reflects that it's frightening while observing the magic's intensity. Noting its weakness, he remarks that it looks weak despite its power. He comments that he never imagined Light could become that strong. While addressing Yami directly, he calls Yami number 1, thinking she wouldn't be alive, as those used as magic tanks have a short lifespan and most die within a few years because of the low nutrition and lack of sunlight. With a grin on his face, he tells that as long as Yami is doing well, he'll eventually get her test subject back. While plotting for the next move, he thinks of getting rid of the test subjects as he looks at the children, commenting that there's no way around it and the test subject he left with Kuts should be ready soon, and adds that the mass production of portable magic tanks has been completed. Determined, he states that he's definitely going to thank Light for that humiliation while calling him a bastard. Addressing Lord Agunil, the man announces that the time for the regular reports has come. He smirks while declaring that he's coming. Agunil reflects that above everything else, while focusing on the glowing staff, for him to be able to use the Lich staff takes the priority. He smirks while declaring that there's something he must take from Light at all costs, even if it means killing Light. Arriving at the church town, Light and Yami approach the gates. While taking in the scenery, Light puts a monstrous creature head on the table. Melissa gasps in shock and confusion. Calling out Light, she asks what this is. Light tells it's the Valley Keeper and reveals that he nearly died while doing a B-rank mission. Melissa says what in confusion. Light tells her that it's weird thinking about it. While Melissa urges him to wait a moment, she explains that the Valley Keeper had been subjugated a little before their mission. Light reacts with surprise when she points out the wanted poster of the creature on the wall. A wanted poster reveals that the reward for defeating the Valley Keeper is 350 gold coins. Melissa explains that according to the report, the Valley Keeper was killed near a town capital. Light reacts with surprise as he admits he's not talking about the money, but the countless loss of lives because of inaccurate reports. Melissa looks depressed hearing that. Calming her down, Light tells her that it's not her fault. Melissa responds with a firm no. She adds that this is definitely the guild's fault while explaining the situation. Melissa continues that there's clear proof, and she'll find out what happened for the sake of the future. Light listens and insists that he's counting on her, and leaves from there. Melissa concludes that first, she must contact the guild in that city. She sighs while admitting that she messed up her chance to say goodbye to Light. Light walks through the bustling town while heading toward the market. Everyone watches her while Yami munches on a donut with curiosity. Someone comments that where's all that food going while Yami enjoys her snack. Yami calls out to Light while he calls for her. He notes that she has already eaten all that. The vendor adds that Yami certainly has a good appetite while smiling. Light thanks the vendor for taking care of Yami. The vendor reassures Light that he is paying for it, so there's no problem, and adds that she didn't budge no matter what anyone did. Light puts his hand on his head while noting that he's not sure why he's so embarrassed. Yami continues eating her pastry, while Light watches thinking her appetite is because of her growth phase. Light mentions that they can finally get some rest. The night falls while Light settles into a room at an inn. Light wonders while reflecting on their journey, thinking about the misrecognitions among the named ones like Simple Wyvern for Dragon, a Goblin Mage for a Goblin Shaman, and wonders if they've also mistaken the Valley Keeper. Light hesitates while admitting that he can't do much about it and decides to leave it to Melissa. Thinking if he should go to the guild and take on a quest, he reflects that levels of quests are low in the city while considering their options. Yami calls out to Light while standing up, saying she is done. Light asks if Yami can bathe by herself and he'll dry her hair. Yami sits there. Light smiles while helping Yami dry her hair in their room. Light reflects on something while watching Yami. He muses that he wants to grow stronger alongside Yami. Calling her, he asks what she thinks about leaving the city and going elsewhere. Yami tilts her head, while Light explains that they should focus on becoming adventurers together and suggests becoming S-Rank. Yami repeats S-Rank. He then explains that it's the top rank for adventures and those are the strongest. While beaming with enthusiasm, Yami excitedly declares that she wants to become the top adventurer alongside Light. Light reflects that for failures like them, dreaming of becoming strongest is exciting. Remembering his promises with Saya in the past, Light admits that he's already thrown away his old dream, while looking forward to fulfill a new dream alongside Yami. Yami enthusiastically agrees that they'll get up early tomorrow. Light smiles while suggesting that there's a place he wants to go while looking thoughtful. The next day dawns while Light and Yami prepare to leave the town. Light suggests that they go earn money while leading Yami through the streets. Then he asks if she can access the status screen. She tries accessing the status status screen partially being able to do so. Yami looks around and all while Light notices how close she was. Light reflects that when it comes to her, she is unable to use status screen and so he doesn't know her level. He muses that as for magic, that's the answer of a person living purely by instinct while watching Yami. Light adds that they need to go to another town to register as adventurers and thinks it'll work out somehow. He announces that they've arrived while standing in front of a building. A character with pointed ears greets them while saying welcome. Light looks surprised in confusion, shocked by her appearance. He comments that an elf. The elf wonders if her appearance concealment is not working. Light says that he has seen a dark elf for the first time and she responds that she is just a part-time worker. Confused by her statement, Light repeats the part-time worker. Some elves come to live in the human world from time to time. The elf asks if they are here to trade and she is the one who appraises the items here. Handing her the items, he tells if that's the case. Here it is. The elf looks while hinting that if it isn't the Valley Keeper. Light exclaims that it's really that monster, adding that he couldn't get the reward at guild, and hands some dropped items and monster materials. Curiously, the elf asks if all these are the parts of monsters he defeated. Light responds with a simple yeah. She reveals that Light is the person she heard who was firing the laser inside the guild, mentioning that she knows a little about the story through rumors. Yami looks curiously at the mysterious box. The elf adds that as a way of thanking for showing rare item, she will tell an old story known to elves. Yami and Light look intrigued while the elf begins to share the mysterious story. The elf begins the story, explaining that others have been like Light, who evolved attributes too. They usually appeared at the times of turning points in an era, and all of them had extremely short lives. Concerned, Light asks what she means by that. She adds that people who have passed through process of evolving draw each other in, and shares that those with attributes tried to kill each other, just like him and Agunil. Realizing that Agunil is someone who has evolved to use all attributes, Light tells that he had yet to evolve his attribute at that time. The elf tells him that the chances were high, which is why they were called together, adding that perhaps such absurd power must be eliminated at some point. Yami tilts her head as Light responds that he's always with Yami. The elf mentions that it's just an old story anyway, and tells them that they can't avoid fighting spoiled brat and to be careful about what happens around them. Light reflects on her statements while feeling determined. The elf hands over the money from the trade while telling them to take it and go. Light looks at the platinum coins, while the elf notes that if it's not enough for now. Light excitedly points out that it's a lot while thinking it's the first time he has seen them. Calling out to Yami, she tells her not to leave Light's side while being serious, and adds an okay while looking at them. Yami smiles looking at her. The elf wonders about her appearance concealment not working, deducing that those two have more magical power than she anticipated, and explains that the little girl has latent magical strength, calling it a weapon. She comments that she is not far away from evolving her attribute, making it 3 people in the same generation. That's the unique ability of humans to evolve their attributes based on change on emotions. So, she believes that it's natural for her nation to start taking action. She declares that it's time for her to get started too, commenting that both Light and Yami need to stay alive until they meet again. Light and Yami sit down for a meal while reflecting on their journey. Light asks if Agunil and him are going to kill each other, explaining that he doesn't know what happened to him after guards took him in the capital. He finds it hard that Agunil gave up on revenge. Light wonders that if he can't avoid the battle, then it's better for them to go straight after him. Yami looks curious while Light calls out to her. Light then tells her that he wants to talk to her about something. Light asks if Yami remembers becoming a strong adventurer while they finish their meal. Yami nods enthusiastically, saying legendary while listening to Light. Light smiles, telling her that she remembered correctly, and begins explaining that they can't become an S-rank adventurer just because they're strong, noting that S-rank adventurers are like mythical beings, which is something he has heard from the guild and other adventures. He adds that they need to become an A rank and do countless high-level quests and get recommendation from guild. They need to become an adventurer that everyone in the kingdom acknowledges. It can't be achieved even with influence or money, and it's the proof of someone really strong. That's why even Agunil was determined to fight and become strong, as there were no options. He adds that the way to do it is to go to a big city to amass achievements. So, he explains that he's thinking about going to the capital while looking determined. Yami tilts her head, saying capital. Light reflects that Yami knows nothing but the inside of the magic tower, and explains that the capital is the largest city where they can rank up and receive extermination missions. Yami exclaims that the food is also the best while her eyes light up. Light smiles while noting that Yami is thinking about food, as expected. Yami looks curious while Light continues to plan their journey. The capital is also the place where Agunil is, and since Agunil will target them for revenge, he decides it's best to get where he is at first, reflecting that they must defeat him early so that they can keep moving forward. He adds that if Yami doesn't wish to go, they can find another way while looking at her. Yami excitedly declares that she's going while holding a snack, eager to continue. She adds that they'll be together always while beaming at Light. Light looks surprised, while Yami calls them a party in partners. He reflects that Yami said the same thing while thinking about their bond. In the ogre's den too, remembering the time when she said she was his partner. Light reflects that as an adventurer, Yami chose him while feeling touched. While smiling softly, he recalls their long journey together. Light apologizes to Yami, admitting that he had forgotten that she's his one and only partner. Yami looks surprised while Light smiles at her. She excitedly calls out to Light while holding a snack, telling she will go with Light. Light looks at Yami while she hands over the snack. He thanks her while they share a warm moment together. Light calls out to Yami while suggesting that they eat and start preparing to move. He smiles while affirming that he'll absolutely be there to protect Yami, no matter what happens. The night sky looms over the town. The next day, Light and Yami set off, relocating to the capital and facing new endings. They receive the ID and the proof of the achievements to present in the capital. Light reflects that they don't have many things and they are living in an inn. He wonders if Melissa was off today. Noticing the person at reception with a stern expression while feeling uncertain, he admits that he wanted to say at least something to Melissa before leaving. Reflecting it, he adds he will write a letter when he gets to the capital. With determination on his face, he prepares to leave for the capital. Light calls out to Yami, saying they should go. Yami enthusiastically agrees to head to the capital while following Light. They board a carriage, while Light notes that after a day and a half of traveling, Yami finished eating. A man in the carriage calls out to Light, addressing him as Sir while they near their destination. Light looks happy while Yami keeps on eating. The carriage approaches a large gate at the end of the vast road while the capital's towers shine in the sunlight. He exclaims that the closer they get, the more amazed he becomes by its magnitude. Admitting that he can't be afraid, he declares that from today onward, this will be their new beginning. Suddenly, a group of attackers ambushes the carriage, while Light and Yami are caught off guard. Light shouts in surprise while Yami looks confused, asking why this is happening. And that's it for this story, guys. But if you want to watch this Sigma hero's tale, like, subscribe, and click below to watch his story. More magical adventures await for you. Check it out.